Okay, who here is first? Myron, who's here first? What? You got Jack's 12? Yeah, I do too. Jack's 12, 1,000 Pine points. I gotta start increasing it because of inflation. Federal Reserve. 1,000 Pine points to Jack's 12. Chebs Chukwu. Hey, that's a new name. I don't think I've seen you here before, but welcome. 500 Pine points to you. And John Kirpan from Japan? No. 250 Pine points to you. Yes, Josone, you are fourth. In a way, being fourth is still pretty good because you get to be chastised by me. Josone, you're not good enough. I don't care what your mother has told you. Try harder. Okay, there's a couple things. I'm going to mirror this Why Be an Atheist? That's what it's called. Why Be an Atheist? And I'm going to teach Caption Christianity, his Bible. He doesn't know his Bible. There's going to be a lot of Christians who are going to agree with me here and say, yeah, I hate to say it, Doug is right. And but first, I'm going to borrow this from a comedian named, what's his name? Chris D'Elia? A little hot, Doug? Well, you mean my audio or just me in general? Okay, I'll tone it down a bit. Chris D'Elia, is that his name? He has a comedic routine called Oops. And Cameron Bertuzzi made a big oops today. And I'm going to show you, and he deleted this oops already. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. When people say I'm hot, I don't know if they're just stating the obvious or they're talking about my mic. Okay, I'm turning you let me know when it's okay. I'm turning it right down here. I stopped being awesome weeks ago, said Shannon Q. Oh, okay. Am I still hot, Shannon? Am I as hot as Paul? Or am I just a scotch? Just a scotch below him. This was today, not 47 minutes ago. And it's probably a couple hours ago. But it's very possible that Russ Jones, pictured below. How come I can't go below? You know what? I don't want to show his picture because his whole family's on there, including a young child. Believed in captured Christianity more than anyone. So there's this guy named Russ Jones who believed in captured Christianity more than anyone. How do we know that he believed in captured Christianity more than anyone? Like, what's the metric? Now too low. What's the metric to know if captured Christianity, if someone believes in them? Well, here's the metric that Cameron uses. Russ was a giver. He began donating $250 a month to Caption Christianity a couple years ago simply because he saw value in what we were doing. When I lost my job, he quintupled his contribution to $1,250 per month. He regularly funded giveaways. In July, he was planning to increasing to $1,500 a month. This is how we know that he believed in Caption Christianity more than anyone. His view on giving was nothing short of inspirational. I hope you find it inspiring too. Russ was also a close friend. He suffered from anxiety and migraines like I do. When I was going through a tough time, Russ was the first person on my list to call. His ability to calm me down was unparalleled. You know what I'm thinking, right? What about Jesus? I thought Jesus was supposed to help people calm down. I will deeply miss those conversations. What? What do you mean you will deeply miss those conversations? We're talking about believing in captured Christianity, and now has there been a falling out? No, it's not a falling out. On June 24th, Russ passed away suddenly in his sleep. His passing has created a substantial financial need for capturing Christianity. Oops. You go from he passed away to financial need for capturing Christianity. That's a big oops. And I think he realized this. You got to see my face when I do my oops. So here's a guy who believed in captured Christianity. How do we know that? Because it sounds like he was the biggest donor, and then he passed away. And it's not like the first thing. I don't know if captured Christianity is written elsewhere, but in this tweet or this Facebook post, whatever it is, the first thing he says, it's not like my condolences to the family. I'm in pain. I'm not talking about, I don't know, just from their perspective. It's from his perspective, a financial need for capturing Christianity. This is a big, huge oops. If you'd like to donate toward this need, which is, in my view, is a way of honoring Russ, I got to laugh at this. Otherwise, it's worth crying over. I mean, it's just so sick, disgusting, terrible. Click the link below. By the way, all your contributions are tax deductible. Look, okay, listen to this. In one short paragraph, we have Cameron Bertuzzi talking about a man passing away, a family man. He has a daughter, wife. In one short paragraph, we go from someone dying to tax deductible. See that? This is a short paragraph. I don't know how people can do this. Go from passing away to tax deductible in one short paragraph. Oops. And there's a link. P.S. Dr. Josh Rasmussen, one of our board members, has issued the challenge to all current supporters to double their existing contributions. He said that if I included this challenge, he would be the first to double. Dr. Josh Rasmussen, shame, 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 shame on you, shame on you. I hold you accountable to encouraging this type of behavior. Well, I guess on the good side, Cameron did wait 3 weeks. What is it? July 16th, 2 weeks. Yeah, a little over 3 weeks to go from announcing his biggest contributor died to, by the way, it's tax deductible, double your donations. If you are a Capturing Christianity supporter and you agree with me, this is a big oops, let Cameron know. In fact, let him know by having, not doubling, but having your contribution. Can I do this? Can I encourage people to give less? Is that okay? I think it's okay. It's my opinion. And Canada, United States, unlike Canada, is a free country. I can say what I want, right? As long as I'm not causing harm, like yelling fire in a crowd. Is this like yelling fire in a crowded movie theater by telling people to have their contributions to Capturing Christianity? How's my audio levels now? It's still too hot, too quiet, just right? I thought this was sick. And I think other people thought it was sick because he deleted this, apparently. What's wrong with him? Like, I thought he was a good marketer. If you're a good marketer, even if you deep down think these thoughts, as a smart marketer, you wouldn't say them out loud. Now, I say a lot of things out loud I probably shouldn't, but I'm not begging for money like he is. So have your contributions. Have them. If you give $100, $50 a month to Capturing Christianity, say you're going to have it to 25 until Cameron starts trusting the Lord for money instead of trusting his Patreons. Thus saith Doug. Okay, and now he's live right now. He's been live for, I don't know how long, half an hour. And the topic is, why be an atheist? See, right there. 166 people watching him. He has 103,000 subscribers. Let's see here. I just love doing this. Because I'm so vain. Oops. And I just started streaming. Oh, man, that's so sad. You know, I have a theory why Cameron's channel is dying. Oh, that's too harsh, right? To say it's dying. But my theory is that it's because he's becoming a progressive Christian. No, she's not an atheist, Travis. They don't allow atheists. I mean, just any atheist. You got to be like a Graham Oppie atheist or someone with 100,000 subs in order to get on, or close to that. But no, they don't have any atheists, at least yet, on this talking about why be an atheist. So if you want to ask, someone about why be an atheist, ask a Christian. But this is what one of my first points with this. Your own Bible teaches, Cameron and Liz, Dr. Liz, that there's no such thing as atheists. I agree with the Calvinists, mostly Calvinists, who make this point, like Cy 10 Brugenkate, who I've had on my channel. Oops, don't worry about this. Romans 1:18-25. So for all you flag-waving phony Christians like Cameron Bertuzzi or Liz Jackson, this is Romans 1:18-25 or so. For the wrath of God, anger, hatred to sin. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of people who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which is known, doesn't say believed, that which is known, knowledge about God is evident. It's clear. It's there within them. For God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, that is, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived, being understood by what has been made, so that they are without excuse. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him or give him thanks, but they became futile, and so forth and so forth. This is an internal critique of Christians talking about why be an atheist, something they don't believe exists or shouldn't if they are true Christians. And this is why I titled my live stream, Why Be a Suppressor of Truth? Because that is more biblical. But then it brings up another important question is, can we control what we believe or what we suppress to be the truth? And Eileen, no, I think you can put yourself in situations to help change your mind on things. But what you're convinced of, you're convinced of. What you're not convinced of, you're not convinced of. Over years of experiences and study, it is what it is. Okay, so let's see what they have to say.
Just need an atheist perspective in order to talk about atheism at all, which I think is not... I completely disagree with that. I mean, you can have a...
Actually, you know what? I'm going to answer the question, though. Even though there's no such thing as an atheist according to the Christian worldview, why be an atheist? In fact, this is the audience participation time, so you can put it in your in the live stream chat. Why be an atheist? I think one of the best reasons to be an atheist, besides the obvious that there's no good reasons for theism, in my opinion, but practically, a good reason to be an atheist is because I think the atheist position has the lowest amount of cognitive dissonance. Every human has some level of cognitive dissonance within them, but I think atheism provides the lowest amount. I don't fret about why the universe exists. I don't worry about how everything began. I don't worry about those things. Now, there are interesting questions, but I don't need an explanation. I'm all for trying to find an explanation, but I don't need one psychologically. I'm okay. Another good reason to be an atheist, at least compared to Christianity, is, besides lower cognitive dissonance, is very practical things like, well, of course, there's the fear of hell, if you believe in that. Not all Christians do. I don't have that fear of hell. I don't. I really don't. Another one is for Christians who struggle with the will of God. I know you're out there. I know who you are. In fact, I bet you most of Christians listening right now, at least one point in your life, have struggled deeply. Am I doing God's will in this area of my life? I don't struggle with that at all. because I don't believe this God exists. When something bad happens to me, I don't cry out, "Why, God, why?" But some of you Christians do. "God, should I marry this person? I don't know. Is it your will?" Some of you Christians talk like that, right? Joshua Daniel says a good reason to be an atheist, at least compared to Christianity, is no doctrinal dilemmas. I guess that applies to Islam and other religions with holy texts. One good reason, it's cheaper, takes less time. Yeah, that's a good pragmatic reason. Fleabit says it's because it's the default position. Yeah, I agree with you, but I understand why people don't agree. And you can even use an evolutionary defense of that maybe we have evolved to believe in something higher than ourselves, something weird, supernatural to help us survive. I found that since becoming an atheist, says Dan the Meek, loving others feels more meaningful because I don't feel like someone is watching and judging my actions. Selfless acts of love are truly unseen. Dissonance was a huge for me, says Jephthah's daughter. If we really truly have one life to live, do you really want to live this life, living a lie? Asked Alan Bell. Do you think I'm living a lie? Or are you saying for Christians? I'm sure most Christians don't believe they're living a lie. I'm an atheist because dogs scared my God with a thunderstorm the other day. God scared your dog? Yeah, that actually, same thing happened to me, Scott Duke. So what are good reasons to be an atheist? A part of me, since I'm a rebel by nature, a part of me wants to tell Christians that you shouldn't be an atheist. And here's why. I'm talking to Christians right now, and Muslims, I guess, Hindus. You guys can't handle it. Cameron Bertuzzi could not handle being an atheist. He's not strong enough. Is that really mean of me to say? But a part of me really believes that. His brother's strong enough, but he isn't. Some people at least believe that they need it in order to survive. And I believe that they believe that. Whether it's true or not, it's another question. Like, look at David Wood, the psychopath. What if he left Christianity and then does attempt murder again? Why be an atheist? Well, maybe you shouldn't if you're like David Wood or like Cameron Bertuzzi. Maybe you're just not strong enough to be okay with dying and that's it. Maybe you're not strong enough, realizing that you are reliant on human beings and there is no supernatural that's going to come down and rescue you in the last second with a miracle. Maybe we should keep atheism, like tell people, no, stay away from atheism. It's a select, unique, small club that most people can't handle. You know what's interesting is for a lot of people that will cause them to want, no, I can do it. I can be an atheist. I'll show you, Doug. See, I'm using the backfire effect to my advantage. There was another reason why one should become an atheist. I forget what it was, though. It'll come to me a little later on.
Rational discussion about anything with any person that you want. And, sometimes it's a good idea to have an atheist there, but it's not always the case that you need an atheist. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And first of all, you're obviously not averse to having atheists on. You've had plenty of atheists on, and we all appreciate the perspective of atheists. And we're also not saying that we're going to say everything there is to say about this topic during the stream and then the book is closed. Part of what we're doing is trying to open a conversation, not close it, But I also think too, fundamentally, what we're talking about is rationality. We're talking about moral, practical, and epistemic rationality. And so it makes sense to have people.
Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. Practically, I kind of like that people don't like atheists. Like there's been polls that atheists are viewed like even lower than politicians. I kind of like that. So why be an atheist if you want people to be scared of you? I tell you, there's Christians who are scared of me. I'm not joking. Because they believe in a spiritual realm. They believe in spiritual warfare. They believe there's an entity called Satan, a lot of them, most of them, I'd say. And they don't think I'm joking when I'm talking to Satan in the corner. They're scared. When I say that I have the power of Satan on my side, some of them believe that. When I tell them in some comment section, if someone's just keeps on pestering me in the comment section in one of my YouTube channels, and I say, just by you talking to me opens up a gateway for demonic influence, they flee. There's only one guy who's kept talking to me after I've said something like that. They run. They're scared because they equate atheism with demons and all that sort of thing because they're silly.
People that have thought a little bit about those types of rationality to comment on this, So yeah, we're not saying we don't want to hear what atheists think about this. We're not saying that their perspective isn't important, but we're trying to open a conversation. And, I think part of the reason Cam picked us is because we like to think about rationality, and Glenn is here. Yay. Hi, Glenn.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, this is the guy who did that spoof on anti-Lincolnism, right? Something like that.
I appear to have ironed out my technical problems. Now, it's not yet 8 a.m. here in Wellington, New Zealand, in Upper Hutt, and it's winter.
Summarize that better than I could. So
I know,
let me say this. So we've just kind of been shooting the breeze here, talk about this subject. What got me interested in wanting to do a live stream about this was, it was a long time ago, actually, at this point, that I listened to a podcast episode that I've got linked in the description of this video from Glenn Peoples. And you may have seen him on the channel before in different ways. But he made this podcast episode called Why Become an Atheist? And basically he ran through some of the reasons that you would probably think up yourself of like...
what would be interesting is to compare why become a Christian versus why become an atheist. Because that's a question I ask on my channel often. Actually, I ask it on the flip side, like, why is it so bad to leave Christianity? But why become a Christian? What's the first thing that pops in your head, Christians? For some of them, they'll say, these are in random order, because it's true. Well, so what? Because if you don't, you go to hell. And if you do, you go to heaven. Okay, there's a good reason, I guess, depending on what hell and heaven's like. But why else become a Christian? It's not to have a better life, is it? Seriously? You think you're going to be more prosperous, more healthy, more happy if you're a Christian? Your Bible teaches the opposite in some cases. You're called to suffer for Christ's sake.
Yeah, here's a reason to become an atheist. If you're convinced that it's true, here's a reason to become an atheist because, theism or belief in God leads to these really bad things in the world. And so here's some reasons to become an atheist. And he went through those kind of systematically and was like, no, that's not a good reason. That's not a good reason. And I just found...
There's people talking about me in his live stream chat. Yeah, I'm open to people calling in. If someone wants to talk to me, you're probably going to be more interesting than Cameron Bertuzzi, but we'll see.
That's super interesting. And so I wanted to talk about it today. The only thing I felt like was missing from that podcast episode was sort of Pascal's wager, or really the practical side of reasons that might motivate you to become an atheist or not become an atheist. So today we're talking about a few different reasons why one might...
Oh, I got in a huge discussion, or a nice long discussion, relatively long, with someone about Pascal's wager recently. And I said something that I think is actually true. Atheists, back me up on this one. If you disagree, please disagree. Hey, thank you for the donation, Jephthah's daughter. Here's $10 for doubling Cameron's live stream views. Well, thank you. Oh yes. I can tell, Jephthah, that you really believe in what I'm doing here because you've given money. Just like Cameron Bertuzzi. That's how he believed in Russ. But tell me if this is true. What was I going to say? The generous donation got my mind off it. I was talking to someone about Pascal's wager. Oh yeah, if you believe, I'm talking to atheists, if you believe that there is a God, if there's a God, wouldn't you think this God would reward people who've rejected all religions and maybe punish those who've accepted these religions on insufficient evidence? This was the argument I made to one proponent, Apologetics Squared, about Pascal's wager. Now, I actually think that many, if not the majority of atheists agree with what I just said. Now, atheists don't believe there's a God, but if there were a monotheistic creator God like the one Christians and Muslims believe in, but Christianity and Islam is false, but it's like one all-powerful God, wouldn't you think it wouldn't require to be worshipped? He would just view human beings as like ants compared to him. And wouldn't he say, you stupid Christians, you believe in this God based on that? Based on these texts? And basically your back pain was healed? You silly Christians. Muslims, you believe that I exist based on the miracle of the Quran? And that this some guy 1400 years ago said he heard from me in a cave? My goodness, you guys are idiots. This is what I'm envisioning, if there's a God, what he's saying. And then he's looking down at me, the atheist, and saying, PineCreek, my good and faithful servant, you have chosen the right path. You don't believe I exist because I have kept myself hidden from you. And you've done the right thing. Congratulations, PineCreek. When you die, you get to go to heaven. If you don't want to go to heaven, fine, I'll proof you out existence, whatever you want. I'm going to reward you, PineCreek, for seeing these false religions on planet Earth for what they are. But you Christians, you Muslims, you made me so upset because of your stupidity. I'm going to punish you forever. You rotten people. What if that's true, what I just said? I don't know why you Christians and Muslims are taking such a huge risk believing what you believe, knowing what's at stake. Come on, use Pascal's wager to think, people.
Might become an atheist. We can split these into three broad categories: epistemic reasons, moral reasons, and practical reasons. So what I want to do, because epistemic reasons and moral reasons kind of have some overlap, because I think that they both can at least involve obligations that one has, like you may have,
blah, blah, blah.
Liz, you brought this up before we went live, was why don't we talk about the definition of atheism a little?
Blah, blah, blah.
The atheist in the sense that we're talking about doesn't mean that.
Hey, thank you for the donation.
The things that we're going to say today don't.
Oscar, seems plausible God would be quite cross with all that mad stuff Christians say about him drowning babies. Yeah, that's another thing. Like Christians and Muslims are making, if there is a God, a creator God, making him look bad.
Different definition, that's fine. This is the way that we're defining it. So with that out of the way, why don't we get into looking at some of these reasons that one might have to be or become an atheist. So one of the reasons that this is the first reason that Glenn started off with in his podcast, and I think is going to lead to some really interesting discussion, is simply that you believe, or you have evidence, or sufficient evidence, we'll put it in those terms, that atheism is true. So if you believe that atheism is true, does this provide a good reason to be or become an atheist? So this category, would you say it falls under the epistemic category of reasons, or moral, or kind of a little bit of both? And then let's talk about whether or not this is a good reason to be an atheist. Who wants?
There would be no atheism if theism existed. It's the negation of theism. There's no good reasons for atheism. There's just a bunch of terrible ones for theism, and therefore the default position is not that. Like you can't even use things like the problem of evil or divine hiddenness, because maybe this God exists and wants to be hidden. Maybe this God exists and is evil. Hey, thank you for the donation, Tacit Reticence. Coitus is fun, especially when it's with another person. Hey, that's a public service announcement. That you just said, Tacit Residence. Coitus is fun, especially when it's with another person. We say this on the PineCreek channel because we care.
Let's start. Let's start with Glenn, because you haven't talked yet.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about. I mean, and for me, the question was framed: if you're an atheist, why should you?
Thanks, Rebecca.
And like that, it was a question of interest to me, because atheists, or at least some of them, have an interest in making people atheists. I remember when I was looking briefly at Richard Dawkins' notorious book, The God Delusion. He said something like, I hope that when people...
You can sure tell that Christians like these are terrified of atheists because they're making people atheists. And apparently it's still the vast minority position. Why are they talking so much about atheists?
Just on the grounds that atheism is true. And I know that makes sense to a lot of people, like intuitively, because beliefs are all about what's true and what's not. But it's a curious thing. I think that the obligation we're talking about here is a moral one. And that's because I think the notion of obligation is inherently a moral concept. So the question is, do you have some duty? Is there some obligation? Is there like some law written in the universe? Believe things that are true and don't believe things that are not. And I find that
Okay, what does this have to do with why being an atheist?
Interesting question to put to an atheist. Because although they have this intuitive pull to think...
Nothing. It has nothing to do with it. He's now basically trying to convert atheists to Christian by asking them tough questions. He's getting to Plantinga's evolutionary, what is it? I forget the name of the argument.
Once you've discovered that something is true, that's it. Believe it. That's the right thing to do. The question is why. It's not like...
For survival. For survival. It's that simple. If it's true that there's a watering hole, if you're out in the savannah desert and you're dying of thirst, and you remember a watering hole someplace, if your memory is true, it's going to save your life. If your memory is false, you're going to die. People who have better memories are more likely to find that watering hole and survive, and those with bad memories will die. So over time, humans have gotten stronger and faster. Olympics are coming up.
To state the obvious, it's not like God's commanded you to believe true things. So where do you get this obligation from? And I guess that really puts the whole question back in the atheist's lap. To give an account of why it is you think you have this duty, this rule, this law, that you should believe things that are true and avoid believing falsehood. And even though it seems intuitively obvious, it's not that easy to do once you're put on the spot and told, right, explain why this is.
Why is survival important? Well, most people want to live. Why do they want to live? I think it's in our genetics. It's our code. It's determined.
Christian, it's not that difficult. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. God commands us to refrain from lies and to believe what is true. You can give all sorts of accounts from a Christian point of view for why you should embrace truth and refrain from error. From an atheist point of view, it isn't obvious how you can give an account of the obligation itself.
So Liz,
why ought you follow the truth just because God says so, Dr. Glenn Peoples? That's basically what he said, right? He said in Christianity, there's an obligation to follow the truth. Why? Because I'm just going to summarize him. He actually didn't come out and say it. He just said that Christianity teaches this. But because God said so. That's not a good enough reason, is it? Hey, thank you, Deepak Ramachandran. My jaw was hurting, so I went to my presuppositional dentist. He told me I was suppressing the tooth. You're suppressing the tooth. That's really good. And thanks for showing up to poker night the other night. Oh, you missed a great ending. Yeah. And by the way, anybody who makes a donation here will be first on the list for poker nights. Email me for details. And but next week I'm going on vacay to Disney World, and so there will be no Wednesday night poker night next week, but 2 weeks.
I know that you may have some disagreements about what Glenn just said. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. So, I mean, and really you can think about almost 3 different questions here. So why be an atheist? Why become an atheist? And then why try to convert others to atheism? So we might...
So far, they haven't even tried to answer those questions.
Even give different answers to all of those. But I think, in a way, probably a lot of what we'll say could apply to at least more than one of them. And so, yeah, like, why form a belief in atheism? And then is that like an epistemic question or a moral question? And
do we form our beliefs like that?
I tend to think of beliefs. I think actually epistemic, practical, and moral reasons can all apply to beliefs. But I do tend to think Definitely epistemic stuff is super relevant to what we should believe. And, maybe we can kind of focus on that first. And so I guess,
Get to
one
it.
natural thing to think is when it comes to our beliefs, we should follow the evidence, right? That's what we should do. And, we should be seeking out the truth, which is basically, Glenn, what you were just talking about. And I guess, I have a probably controversial view on this. And I don't think that atheists are automatically epistemically irrational. I think there are some interesting bits of evidence that
Isn't the question why be an atheist? I gave a list of answers right away, and so did some of my subscribers in the live stream.
an atheist can cite for their belief that God doesn't exist. The problem people in the
I see. This is the difference between me and a lot of Christians. Christians, I do not care if you think I'm irrational. Doesn't bother me. If you say, "Oh, you're an atheist, you're a fool, you're irrational for believing that," okay. But why is it so many of you Christians out there, you flag-waving phonies, have such huge insecurities that you want people to view you as rational? Please don't think I'm stupid for believing this. If you truly believe you have the truth, that shouldn't bother you one bit. I can look you in the face and say to you, your belief that a man rose from the dead 2,000 years ago based on a compilation of 2,000-year-old texts is stupid. And you say, I understand why you might think that. Have a good day. That Christian I respect. But the Christians say, well, that's a fallacious argument or a genetic fallacy or something like that. Man, I don't have respect for Christians like that, who just immediately get defensive. I mean, just own your belief. Who cares what people think about you? And move on. Flag-waving phony millennials.
problem of divine hiddenness are two of them. So that's one question. Like, is there evidence that could make atheism rational? And I guess I would say I think there's good evidence on both sides. I also think there's good evidence for theism, arguments for God's existence, religious experiences, that kind of thing. But the
Say Spartan Theology is a Christian in the live stream chat. He gets it. He doesn't get defensive.
Epistemic isn't the main place where I would draw the asymmetry. And I think that's where Pascal's wager comes in. We're not talking about it right now. But I think there's this important...
Okay, Liz. Liz just said that there's, I think she just said that there's rational reasons to be an atheist. Now, give us some. Go ahead.
And practical asymmetry between theism and atheism. And then I think the second epistemic question that comes in here is, can the atheist give a story to ground epistemic norms? And so
we need a theological framework in order to ground our norms. I mean, come on.
I think people like Dr. Craig would probably say, no, atheists can't really give a story. But I actually think...
Here's a story about a man named PineCreek.
Look, if I were an atheist, I would say that they're abstract objects of some sort. There's, in the same way that you can kind of be a Platonist about moral obligations, I don't see why I couldn't, if I were an atheist, also be a...
Apologetics Squared, hey, you're invited to come on. I talked about you earlier, so whenever I talk about someone, they're usually, unless you're Darth Dawkins, invited to come on. Do you want to come on? Let me know, and I'll make time for you, as opposed to how I end every live stream.
Platonist about epistemic obligations. So, I don't know. I'm still thinking through this, and maybe there's something I'm missing. I guess one thing you might say is, well, if I'm an atheist and I think there are these abstract objects and that's what grounds like epistemic norms, like, why should I care about them? And maybe the theist has a much better story there to tell. It's like, if there's a God that's giving you these commands, maybe it's easier to see why you should care about those than these like...
Whoa, no. See, this is the slave mentality that a lot of Christians like Liz have. Why ought someone obey God's commands? There's only two answers I can see you can give. And both are really not that good. The first answer you can give, why ought someone obey God's commands? In other words, why ought someone believe the truth that he has commanded? Number one, by definition, you ought to do what is true or what God commands, just by definition. That's not really powerful, is it? Because I could use that. Well, by definition, I could say you should not believe in God, or you should not follow the truth. Just by definition. I could say the opposite, by definition. My definition. What makes God's definition or your definition better than my definition? Now, what's the other reason? Another reason why you should follow God's commands is, and a lot of Christians do admit this, and I applaud them, because he can hurt you if you don't. And he can reward you if you do. It is good for you. Now, I think that only applies in the afterlife. I don't think that applies here on planet Earth. I think there's no difference, and maybe even Christians have it worse in life here on planet Earth by being a Christian because of all the struggles I mentioned earlier in this live stream. So it boils down to heaven and hell.
Abstract objects that are non-causal, and it's kind of like, what's my motivation to be epistemically rational, right? But I just want to, go ahead.
I think that's kind of where my question is going. It's like, okay, so there are these, call them epistemic norms. There is a way to be epistemically proper, and should you do that? And that's why I think it's a moral question. Like, well, who says you have to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, so maybe
who says you have to do that? That applies to God, right?
In some ways, we actually don't really disagree that much. If the question is not about,
like, who cares what God thinks, unless he can hurt you.
Whether there's a norm, but the question is about, can we give a story on why people should be motivated to care about the norm?
Yeah, I mean, when we say that there is a norm, what are we saying? We're just saying there is a way to be proper in our belief forming, and proper just means truth aimed. That's all the norm is, isn't it?
There's some kind of standard.
Academic duties, insofar as we're concerned about moral duties, like why should I think?
They're still talking about this.
I don't know if anyone watches like crime shows, but like, who committed the value or the way that.
Okay, yeah, I give up. This is just boring. They haven't answered the question, why be an atheist? They could have said things like, well, let's just keep it very clear and simple. Maybe for some people, they don't find the evidence for theism sufficient. There's a good reason to be an atheist. Maybe for some people, more specifically, they find that the Christian lifestyle or the Muslim lifestyle is too arduous to do. And they're not strong enough to be a Muslim or strong enough to be a Christian. And so they choose to live the life of an atheist who doesn't believe that they have to believe in a God and follow his precepts. There's another reason. I mean, they're talking about epistemic this, epistemic that. This is why Christians are failing. They don't know how to communicate.
Their son or child in some kind of like catastrophic building collapse or whatever.
I should say Christian philosophers don't know how to communicate, most of them.
You don't know if, like, some people survived this building collapse, but you've got a lot of evidence, or the parents have a lot of evidence that their child is, maybe dead or severely injured, but nevertheless, they may not believe that their child is dead. They may not actually go all the way to belief because, that's not the right thing to do in this situation. The right thing to do is to withhold judgment or maybe even believe the entire opposite proposition. So I think it's still, to me, it seems like these are kind of related still.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of that. So there's two distinct questions. Here's a view that I don't think any of us have.
Thanks, Apologetics Squared, for offering to come on, because this is boring to me. So what you do is you type in this. I'll pin it for you. https://whereby.com/PineCreek. And then I'll pin that. Whoever wants to talk to me can. Apologetics Squared says he wants to come on. Yeah, it's pinned, right? And then let me open up my Whereby screen. And anybody else can come on as well, even atheists. I'd love for atheists to come on and just very quickly, in a sentence or two, tell me why be an atheist? Yeah, and Felix Rodriguez, if you are 11, you can't come on. I don't talk to minors. You have to be 18. I think Felix is over. You shouldn't even be here if you're under 18. Your parents know where you are if you're listening, you're under 18. Go get your mom and dad right now and say, I'm listening to the PineCreek channel. Is that okay? He leads people to hell. Should I leave or should I listen, mommy? Your epistemology is false, says Felix. Okay. I think my epistemology is way better than yours. I don't believe a man rose from the dead based on 2,000-year-old texts. Do you? Or do you believe because you feel it in your bones? The inner testimony of the Holy Spirit. Justin Maurer, PhD. Hey, it was good playing poker with you the other day. PineCreek, this is also weird. Their criticism of atheists is, why do you think you have to believe true things? Yeah, that's all I heard so far, but I didn't have enough patience to continue on. Maybe Apologetics Squared can tell us what they said at the end. Dang, my mom said I have to stop watching. Sorry, PineCreek. Say Spartan Theology, I respect you for going to ask your mommy if you have permission to listen to me. Listen to your mother. Mother knows best. Hey, here's Apologetics Squared. Sorry, Travis. He got here first. Hey, Apologetics Squared. Are you there?
Not. It's really unfortunate.
Okay. Are you going to show your face today for the whole world to see?
Nope.
Why is
I'm
that?
sorry. I run my channel anonymously, and
why is
I
that?
decided to keep it that way for a while. I don't know. Oh, okay. Before I get into anything,
No. Hang on a second. I just about the showing your face thing. Like I can sort of understand if you live in a country like Pakistan and you're an atheist not wanting to show your face. I can sort of understand if you're an atheist who just can't come out. But you live in the United States, right?
I haven't even shared where I live. Okay, PineCreek. I look at anonymity this way. It's like like an ice sculpture. You could like chip things away. I could give bits of information to the world, and I could like throw it out there, but I can't ever bring it back after I let it out there. So I need to be real. If I have like this anonymity, I can't speak. If I
anonymity.
Have, like, this, yes.
Yeah.
I got to be like careful, like really sure I want to like share something before I give it out in the world.
Well, I understand that, but like you're not. I guess what you're saying is you're committed to.
And what if I'm horribly disfigured by like acid on my face or something? Like you don't.
I've had a lot. Hey, no, listen. I've had a lot of ugly people on my channel. I accept them all.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's not like your acceptance I'm worried about.
Well, like, you're worried about what other people think about you, your appearance?
No, I'm just.
You should only be worried about what God thinks of you.
Well, what if God thinks I'm horribly disfigured?
Well, maybe he does. I don't know.
Okay, so. Yeah, hopefully
See, this
is entertaining.
This is the rapport building stage of our conversation. Are we friends
yet? Right? I don't know. It depends. It depends on how sarcastic this conversation gets as it progresses.
No, hey, did you watch the whole stream? Because I didn't.
No, I came in late. Okay, you said stuff about me. Was it all nice things?
Oh, I said that I had a conversation with you, and then I asked the question to my atheist audience if they agreed with me that if there's a creator God, he probably would reward people who rejected all religions of the world, including Christianity, and maybe even punish those who accepted it based on insufficient reasons. So I just asked that question out there, and I actually even had time. I have not had time to go back. Maybe I should run a poll. Do you want me to run a poll for you? I can do that.
Yeah, go for it. Like I just thought, like premise 4 that specific question is like a premise in the argument in the video in question. I don't know if you brought up my video in particular, but like
no, I didn't.
Yeah, I use that specific religion you're talking about that's not as more probable than Christianity. That's a premise. So if people generally reject that, then okay, that's a way out of my argument. I thought like, okay, if you're like familiar with the arguments on both sides, like hopefully you'll think the case for Christianity is at least a little better than this kind of random thing.
Wait a minute, because I listened to you and Liz on Trinity Radio the other day because I care.
Yep. Oh, thank you.
And you guys made it sound like it doesn't matter about the probabilities within theism, because as long as that theist has the belief that there's these infinite payouts, then it doesn't matter. Am I wrong?
So,
am I wrong?
I think so. I'm trying to understand what you're saying, but I think you are wrong. So don't worry. So the idea is the argument picks out a person, and then it asks them, okay, what probabilities do you assign to these different ways of getting to heaven? And then if they find that the thing that they're promoting isn't the thing that maximizes people's chances at getting into heaven, then that's immoral. That's kind of the argument.
Right.
So a Christian, you pick up a Christian, they're going to say, oh yeah, Christian theology, like that's all true. The best way to get to heaven, like the most probable way to get to heaven is through Christianity. And like this argument's predicated upon, like, if you pick up an average atheist, they'll probably say, okay, yeah, I see the case for Christianity or Islam or whatever these religions are, and I ultimately think they're wrong. But so atheism is true, but like they would still be the most likely way to get to heaven. So that's kind of
what
it's
you're
based
saying.
off
Atheists would say that if there's a God, Christianity is the most likely way to get to heaven. Is that what you just said?
Yes, I think that is a premise of the argument.
You think that from
I
the
think,
atheist perspective, that Christianity is the most likely way to get to heaven? Is that what you just said?
yes.
Wow.
Okay.
Why do you believe that?
Oh, I think our arguments, I think, are at least decent enough that even if you think like the probability of Christianity is like 1 in a million, it at least beats out its contenders. Like maybe you think its contenders are like 1 in 2 million probability. That's the kind of idea.
No, but you said from the atheist perspective.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a Christian. I don't think the probability is 1
Okay,
in a million.
I'll tell you one thing about Christianity, which I think makes Islam more probable, and that is the concept of the Trinity is crazy.
Oh, okay.
It's contradictory, and even the text itself, where like the Islam faith belief system is way more homogeneous than Christianity is, and it doesn't have the Trinity. And it's even a little more Calvinistic, so it's not really based on belief. And Christianity has these verses like God doesn't want anyone to perish, but yet creates people knowing that they will. And yet he doesn't want anyone to perish, but he knows that if he does create me, I will perish if he sees the future and knows I'm going to hell. Like it's chock full of these. I'll just be nice and say tensions, but
Yes.
but for a lot of people, they view it as flat out contradiction. Like a lot of atheists would think this, and we're talking about the atheist perspective on Christianity.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like hopefully, there are some pretty nifty responses there to those.
Oh yeah,
to those
Mormons have nifty responses. Muslims have nifty responses.
Yeah, exactly.
Nifty responses are a dime a dozen.
Ah, okay. And yes, let me put it nicely. I think that yeah, you can, like, it is possible for somebody to be in that kind of position that you're describing yourself in, but like I honestly just wouldn't have expected anyone to take that position because it seems really weird. Because like
which position?
The Christian, these like the Christian answers to the theological tensions are just so bad. Like the evidence is just like so low that even like these really random.
Have you ever talked to an ex-Christian?
Yes.
Well, my guess is a lot of them would say that some of the answers they've got to their deep theological questions weren't sufficiently answered for them. Yes, there's answers, but it doesn't convince them to say no. But garbage.
Oh, okay. Well, look at it from my perspective. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, okay, they're very skeptical from them. So, like, it doesn't even raise the probability of Christianity to like 1 in a million. Like, the probability of Christianity being true is still lower than 1 in a million for them. It's like, okay, but like, I think it's at least good at, like, from my perspective, these things would at least be good enough, hopefully, to like beat out the contenders. That's where my perspective's from. If you think that
that's such a naive answer from a Christian, because I understand you're a Christian, you're saying this about Christianity, but you do realize there's Jews out there who love Yahweh and really respect the Torah as inspired scripture, and they're listening to you and going, what is this goofball Christian talking about, that Christianity is more probable than Judaism? Christianity stole from Judaism, and this guy's on PineCreek channel and claiming that it's more probable. You got to be kidding me. When their Messiah didn't fulfill any of the things that the true Messiah came to fill, and then they called it the new covenant because ours is old. No, ours is old and ours is true, says the Jew.
Okay.
They call you a flag-waving phony theist, worshiping the wrong Yahweh. You believe Yahweh is also Jesus and a different person and the Holy Spirit when Yahweh is one.
Exactly. So, okay, you're saying that you're saying that I should like base my judgment off of like atheist credences on the basis of Jewish credences? I'm not sure where you're going.
You think I'm mischaracterizing some Jews right now?
No, I'm saying like I'm missing the connection. It's like Apologetics Squared. You're so naive.
Well, because, no, I'm calling you naive. I'm calling you naive because you made the claim, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Christianity from the atheist perspective is more probable than any other religion. Am I wrong that you said that?
No, it doesn't have to be more probable than any other religion. It has to be more probable than a like really contrived religion where atheists go to heaven. Like,
oh, okay.
So you come up.
So you're not comparing it to other religions. You're comparing it to
not other religions. Like you might.
I think you said something different earlier, but maybe I misheard you.
Then I misspoke because like the way the argument works is that the thing you are promoting, which is atheism, has to be the thing which has the best probability of getting people into heaven for it to be moral to promote it. So that means that the top of the list of religions for you has to be atheists go to heaven. That has
for
to
me,
be the top of the list.
For me,
yes, that's what you need to have for you to be like morally allowed to promote your religion.
Okay,
and, like,
so if I have a belief,
that is the thing.
So if I have a belief that's more probable than not, I mean, more probable than Christianity, for example, that the way to get eternal life is to reject all religions of the world. If I have that belief, then I have this moral oughtness to keep doing what I'm doing. Yes?
Exactly.
Okay, so we're agreed. Okay,
and that's what I'm saying is kind of weird. Like,
why is that weird?
Maybe. All right.
What's weird?
It sounds like ad hoc and like, okay. I mean, all the arguments for the specific Christian religion, you don't have those. So, and it's like, it seems to be a kind of.
Which one don't I have that Christians have?
Oh, okay. Like, I mean, this gets into like a lot of topics, but like, the resurrection argument. Like, is there some sort of equivalent?
If there's a God, he doesn't need some stupid guy claiming to be God rising from the dead and a blood sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins. The God I'm thinking of, if he exists, could just say, hey, if you do something bad against me, you're an ant. It doesn't bother me. However, I can forgive you if I want. I don't need no stinking blood sacrifice.
Okay, fun times, but like,
let me put it this way. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying, or I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. So no.
No. You're coming from this Christian perspective where you value the resurrection of Jesus so much. I really don't think you can see or hear what I'm saying.
I don't think that's it. So it's like we have these two religions, Christianity, and I'm gonna call it Dougism. Dougism is this idea that you reject all religions. Is that? Can I call it that? You reject all religions and you go to heaven. PineCreekism. Oh, that's more syllables, but okay. So we got PineCreekism and Christianity, and we're looking to like put evidence on the scales to see which one is stronger. And it's like, okay, currently they're at 0. We have no evidence on either scale. And it's like, okay, we have the resurrection argument, and maybe you're an atheist and you're sitting there, okay, that's like a grain of sand. The resurrection argument, that's just terrible. It's like fine, but it's like we now have a grain of sand on Christianity that we don't have in PineCreekism. So it's like you need an argument. If you want to say PineCreekism is the best to like counterbalance it to a better position than Christianity.
So if I had a resurrection, would that make my belief system PineCreekism better?
Well, maybe, but like the thing is you don't.
Okay, well, wouldn't you believe that within my religion, if there's a God, a creator God, he did have a guy named Myron who rose from the dead, but he said that the Jesus guy wasn't God in flesh, and he didn't die for any sins.
I'm really confused because like the way the argument's based off of is like not. It's like this. Your actual credences on like when you die and you wake up. What do you think is the most probable when you like open your eyes. If what would be more surprising to you when you open your eyes after you like get shot in the heart or whatever, you open your eyes and you see the Christian God, or you open your eyes and see the God of PineCreekism. You don't have a resurrection of, what was it, Myron?
Yeah.
So like saying that like this hypothetical resurrection, this hypothetical resurrection, it doesn't help your case, because we're talking about which would be more surprising to you. Like
I just said that because you said. I just said that because you said, well, your religion about your concept of God doesn't have a resurrection. Mine does. And I just gave you one, and now you're saying it's not good enough.
I'm thinking, okay, I'm talking past you, and I'm trying to like figure out how to like
no. What's happening here is within this hypothetical construct that I'm giving you whatever you want, and you're saying, but no, mine's special, right?
Oh, sorry. That's not what's happening. So the idea is like we have these two scales for Christianity and PineCreekism, and for like Doug's evaluation of them. And what Doug doesn't believe either. That he's an atheist, not a PineCreekist, which is really weird because it's named after him. But whatever.
No. Within the PineCreekism, God, if he exists, rewards those who have basically ignored him and have not believed in him for insufficient reasons, and basically have denied all the religions of the world. And God looks down and says, good and faithful servant, Doug, you have rejected Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, and that's what you should have done. I'm going to reward you after you die. And poor Apologetics Squared is going to burn in hell forever.
Poor me.
I don't know why you're taking. I don't know why you're taking this huge risk.
Oh yeah. Oh, like all the reasons for Christianity.
But you know what?
But like
instead of doing this back and forth, maybe just tell me why you think the resurrection of Jesus is more probable than not.
Okay, I would really like to stay on this topic. Like,
no, but this is staying on the topic because it's you brought up resurrection. Why do you believe the resurrection happened?
Okay, I prefer like to talk about other stuff, because like the resurrection argument is by far not my my strong suit. I'm like more of the philosophy guy than the history guy. So if you want to like talk about, hey, your favorite argument from evil, right? Like that's fun to talk about. Why did God create
Apologetics Squared?
Enjoy talking
what
about.
Is the definition of what's the definition of being a Christian? What makes someone a Christian and not a Christian?
Oh, you believe in Jesus and all that. Like, okay, there's this whole
believe in Jesus and all that. What's the all that? Why are you a Christian and I'm not?
I think that
in your opinion,
necessary and sufficient conditions for being a Christian are like, belief in the way I define it. I think you need the Trinity in there. Jesus rose from the dead, and that in doing died on a cross, rose from the dead, and that puts you right with God. If you
so, what makes a Christian? What makes a Christian a Christian? According to you, one of the things you said was that that Jesus is God, the Trinity, part of the Trinity, and that He rose from the dead. And I'm just asking you, if that's your definition of Christian, and if you call yourself a Christian, I'm asking you, why do you personally believe Jesus rose from the dead?
Okay, so there's there's a lot of steps in that argument to getting to a Christian. And like one of them is you have to believe in God, and then you have to go to the resurrection and say that happened. And like you need theology.
I'm going to give you a God. You can have your God. I'm asking you, why do you believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead?
Oh, okay, we could get into that, but it's like, because like
is that not a simple question?
Oh no, it's a simple question. I'm telling you why I would prefer to discuss something else. It's like,
tell me why you don't want to describe why you're a Christian, or why you believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead.
Oh, okay. Like, I would like to describe why I'm a Christian, but like what I'm saying, Doug, is like there's a bunch of different propositions you need to accept, and some come before others. Like you need to accept God exists before
I already gave you that.
From the dead. Yeah. So I focus on different propositions. In my argumentation, I focus on God exists and that
I already gave you
the concept of God makes sense. I don't know what that means.
That means for the sake of discussion, let's assume a creator God exists.
Can I get like 15 seconds just like to talk?
Okay, go. Just really 15.
Quick. Okay, so the thing is, I didn't come here prepared to discuss the resurrection, and because I'm not like a history guy, I'm more of a philosophy guy. I don't have anything prepared to talk about that. So I think you could easily show me or you could do much better than me in this kind of discussion, but I don't think that's because my case is bad. It's just because I'm totally unprepared.
Okay, that was 20 seconds. Now,
I'm sorry.
no.
I apologize.
I'm not. I'm just saying that I gave you your 15 seconds, and you basically repeated what you said earlier, that you're not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That you're not prepared. Doesn't it your scriptures say that you should be prepared to give a defense for what you believe?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're not prepared.
Well, I mean, like literally prepared for a live stream with you, Doug.
Okay, hang on. That's a good point. Is the fact that we're live streaming, is that why you're hesitant to talk?
Yes, it is exactly because we're live streaming.
Like, okay, what are you scared of?
Way worse on live streams. Oh, I actually, it's harder to think on your feet on a live stream. If like, you have an audience and all that. I don't know if you probably don't get this. You've done this for a while, but like, I actually find it difficult to like, kind of think on my feet here.
Okay, I appreciate that answer, but there's no pressure. I mean, I'm serious. There's no pressure. It's not like
there's no pressure from you, but like you're okay. There is like I know you have an audience that like can you vouch that for your like the entirety of your viewers?
Are you scared that someone's going to call you names or something?
I don't think it's a fear, but like that kind of that being in the back of my head at least has a psychological effect where it's like harder to think on your feet.
Okay, I'm being sincere and honest with you right now. In fact, I can make
Me too.
I can make a promise to you if you want, if it helps. I won't push back on you. I just want to sincerely know why you think a man rose from the dead 2,000 years ago.
Okay, I'll give you my best shot that I could do on my feet.
And if you want, I won't push back. I won't even ask questions. I'll just listen. Is that okay? So if
I'm going to do it, I want pushback. Okay, so give me pushback. I'll give you my best shot. Okay, so we have all these. We have all these arguments: kalam, teleological, ontological, contingency, blah 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 blah. What they get? Bear God. You got three omnis and all that. You get all these natural theology arguments. You're left. Okay, you've granted me there is some God. Cool. So we have this omnipotent, omnibenevolent, omniscient God. That kind of worldview on its own is like really, really like in tension with the world we see around us. Just on the face of it, for a couple of reasons. Like there's suffering everywhere, and also like I can just like look inwardly at myself, and in comparison to a morally perfect being, I am just like nowhere near ready to approach that God. So there's something that's missing from my worldview. If I believe in this God and I just look at the world around me, there's a huge tension there. I need some sort of reconciliatory hypothesis. I need some way of reconciling the fact that there is this God that I've added to my ontology and this world around me. So I look out there for a reconciliatory hypothesis. I look for an explanation for why the way the world is the way it is, but there's still a God. And one thing that makes sense is that maybe the God would have revealed it. That seems like pretty cool. Maybe he would have explained why the world is the way it is and so terrible and why I'm so terrible.
May I interject here for a second?
Stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Feel free.
Okay. I'm going to repeat back to you very briefly to demonstrate that I'm listening to you. You're saying that you have this concept of an omni God with omni properties, and that you ask yourself, you see the world around you, you might see something like what might not be expected, like pain and suffering. And so far we've gotten to this point where I think you're saying that Jesus is needed to help bridge that gap.
Something's needed.
Yeah, okay.
You need some sort of explanation, because you have like these two beliefs that are in tension, just like that the world sucks and there's a God. And not just the world, but like I could look inwards on myself and realize I suck. Like I have all these moral failings, and like it would be difficult for me to like.
I understand, but please do me a favor and really focus on the one.
Too slow.
Because all that what you just said could be true, but it still doesn't get to you why you believe a man rose from the dead 2,000 years ago.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so let's focus in on that.
Okay, yeah. So the thing is, when people like make a historical case, what you have to start there's some probability that like a prior probability that Jesus rose from the dead, and then you start building up historical facts to like try and raise that probability. But I'm like thinking, that prior probability, unless we get like how much can history really do for us? I'm going to try and build up that prior probability as much as possible before we get to the history stuff. So I'm looking at the world, and I see like there's this one man, like there are a bunch of different religions, but one kind of in particular jumps out at you. It's there's this man, this carpenter. He a bunch of the world religions have like lots of focus on him, and he died and rose again, and that kind of.
But wait a minute, that's the part I want to know about. Why,
right.
Why do you believe that's true?
So there's a claim that he rose from the dead. Yes, there's a claim. Let me be clear. There's a claim there, and that actually looks like a sketch of a pretty interesting reconciliatory hypothesis, like God coming in as a man, dying for the sins of the world. Hey, that's a good kind of way of providing a reconciliation.
Okay, can you stop there? I want to repeat back what you're saying. You're saying that Jesus dying and rising again looks like a way to reconcile the world.
Yeah, it looks like a way to reconcile those two beliefs we had trouble reconciling. There's this all good God, and the world really sucks.
Now, is this the reason why you believe a man, in fact, did in history rise from the dead?
Well, there are a bunch of other
but is this one
explanations?
of them?
What Muhammad offered an explanation, like the Quran, like that kind of gives you a way of looking at God's relation to the world, and then you could kind of just take the Torah on its own and view that as a reconciliatory hypothesis. But now let's add on the historical considerations. We have all these different reconciliatory hypotheses that on the face of it, give some plausibility because they solve this tension. But now let's add some let's look at the historical considerations. And it's this guy, it's kind of hard to give a really satisfactory answer to what happened there that gave all these people a belief in Jesus's resurrection. Depending on how skeptical you are, it seems that there's some disciples who definitely believed all this, and then there's got Paul who on the road to Damascus converted to Christianity, did a 180.
Let me repeat back what you're saying. You believe that this it appears like this is a possible way to reconcile the world to a God, and then now you're getting to the history part. You're saying that at least some of the disciples seem to believe that this happened, and Paul had an experience which
I'm going through a basic minimal facts case. I don't have the 5 points laid out for me. It seems like you could go make a strong case for hey, there's this empty tomb, and so on and so forth. And it's okay, what kind of naturalistic explanation could I throw to God out for a second? How could this have evolved naturally? And maybe you could give an explanation, but hey, the fact the idea that Jesus did really rise from the dead, that's a pretty good explanation. And hey, this reconciles my belief in God and my
I want to repeat back what you're saying. You're basically saying that the facts that, or the claims that you see in the New Testament explain maybe the fact that Jesus did rise from the dead.
Yeah, I could think of now the explanations for all these minimal facts, the empty tomb and whatnot, and it's you can give naturalistic explanations, but the resurrection as an explanation is a pretty good one of these different events. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I'm annoyed because this is all coming out pretty splintered and broken. And
I understand what you're saying, because you're basically getting into the Gary Habermas minimal facts type thing, which I'm very familiar with. Yeah,
kind of.
So
and I think
what I like about philosophers, which you like philosophy, right? And what I like about you guys is that you're willing to enter hypothetical thought experiments.
Yep.
Okay. So I want, as a team, let's enter one together, and it's called the Flying Man Thought Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
You don't sound happy.
Oh no, I'm ecstatic, Doug. Let's go. Okay. Let's enter this together.
So within this thought experiment, my great grandfather could fly unaided.
How many grades?
I don't know, 5 or 6. I could go look it up in the records, so he could fly. Seriously, he ran.
Amazing.
He ran off the cliff of the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, and he flew across it.
Amazing.
And I guess my question to you is, hearing that claim, do you believe it?
Oh, no.
Okay, either do I. I mean, it's even though it's my ancestor. Come on, really? But there's more.
Exactly.
There's more. What
Mhm.
What if I told you that he had 12 close friends who saw him fly, and from that point forwards, they had a belief that he flew? My question to you now is, do you believe my ancestor flew unaided?
Oh, no, I don't.
Either do I. We're the same.
Do you want to keep going through this, or could we just like jump ahead to the
No,
point
no,
where
I want to go
like,
through this a little bit longer. Now, what if I told you that my ancestor who claimed to fly believed in God and thought he was actually God incarnate, and that God desired him to fly? Do you believe it now?
So
Just based
sorry,
on all the claims that I've layered in, do you believe he made the claim that he was God in flesh? When you look, he said in a diary.
Oh, sorry. The reason I'm hesitating is because there's actually, you can't see me because my camera's off, but there's a distraction in here. Can I just have a minute?
Okay.
Just a second.
Okay. Hope he's not phoning a friend. This is going to be good.
No, sorry about that. Anyways,
That's all right.
Okay, I need something more than like the claim that God wanted him to fly. It's like I need some explanation of how like this reconciles my two beliefs, that there is this God and there is this world that sucks, and that I like suck at a moral level, and like I'm kind of distant, very distant from this God.
Well, what would you need to hear like that would make you believe it? Well, no, I'll retract that question. What if I told you that he claimed to be God, and that there are 4 diaries written by some of his friends or associates of his friends who talk about miracles that he did to demonstrate his divinity, his power over the weather, for example.
Cool.
Like it was very windy the day he flew, and he said, "Winds be calm," and then he flew. But he said that the way that God reconciles humanity to himself is through the belief that he flew.
Okay. I have
now just based on that, based on what you've heard me utter, do you believe my ancestor flew?
No.
Either do I. Okay, now ask your question.
Oh no, I wasn't asking a question. I said there are 2 problems with that. One is like you could say that it reconciles him to God, but like I just don't see that. Like you could say that flying like does this sort of reconciliation, but
whether you see it or not doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Oh, okay. Like what I mean by I don't see it is that I don't find it very plausible. Like it just intuitively.
Why don't you find it plausible?
Like flying doesn't seem to be like the kind of thing that reconciles the world to you.
Flying doesn't seem like the type of thing that would reconcile the world to God. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
But a bloody sacrifice does?
Okay, you said this a few times. It does. You said reconcile the world to God. I meant reconcile my belief about God and my beliefs about the way the world is.
Okay. Whenever you hear me say the word reconcile, that's what I mean.
Okay, got it.
Okay, but your personal opinion is that that's not the type of thing God would do, cause a man to fly. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Or, well, maybe he might do it. Like, it doesn't seem to be the kind of thing with which, if he did do that, it would provide some sort of explanation of my two, like some way to break the tension between my 2 beliefs. Okay,
what if I told you that there's actually historical texts that date way prior to my ancestor flying that, some people don't think it specifically mentions my ancestor, but basically predicts that he would fly, and that before that, it was the flying of objects that caused the forgiveness of sins. But because my ancestor was the perfect flyer, that act of flying forgave sins for all mankind for all time. And no longer did like a stapler have to fly or a chicken have to fly. It was my ancestor who flew once and for all flyers for the forgiveness of sins. Do you believe it now that he flew?
Okay. I said I had 2 problems. I'll give you the second problem as well. Not enough people believe it. Like if God had reconciled the world to him, or like he did this flying thing so that belief in flying, helps people. He's done a terrible job because, like, as far as I could tell, nobody except a few of your followers on Twitter really actually believe that this man.
Oh, so it's a matter of numbers for you. Okay. Well, what if I were to tell you that in this thought experiment, and as a philosopher, you value the importance of thought experiments. What if I were to tell you that out of the 7.5 billion people on planet Earth, that 3 billion, not 2.2, but 3 billion people believe in the flying man and that God is real and that he was God incarnate? 3 billion. Would you now believe it's true?
I think that, I'm pretty close to over the edge. I'm not sure.
What? You do believe?
I'm pretty close. Yeah. I won't say I'm over the edge, but I'm pretty close there. Maybe like tidy up the kind of historical
what pushed you? This is very interesting to me because I still don't believe my ancestor flew, but is it the fact that I told you 3 billion people believe it? Is that what pushed you over the edge?
Well, before that, it's like God, if that was the way God like kind of fixed up the world, he was doing a really bad job because there was still like most of the 7 billion people, they didn't actually get to join in this kind of this kind of beautiful.
Well, he did it 2,000 years ago, roughly. He flew.
Yep.
So, and a lot of people came after that. Oh, are you saying that you don't believe because it was such a long time ago?
No. It's because like let's talk about in this thought experiment, like the way the afterlife looks. I thought you said that you have to believe in the flying man to go to heaven. Like if that's the case, then
people have different theologies about the flying man. Some people think that he flew for the whole world, and other people think that only a select few get to go to heaven.
Okay.
Some people believe that some people who don't believe will just be annihilated. It's a very complex theological framework that the flying man theology has.
Yeah. Okay.
And reasonable people can disagree on it.
Yeah, we can. So if we're like mirroring this off of Christianity, then it's like, okay, we got the three biggies: ECT, annihilationism, universalism. But most universalists do believe in like that there's a hell at the first point. Like initially, there's some sort of hell.
Right. So I don't want to get bogged down on the. What I'm curious to know is, do you believe my ancestor flew? Lean yes, lean no, based on everything I've told you.
I lean yes.
You lean yes, based on. Now let's review why you believe my ancestor flew. You believe my ancestor flew because there were claims from 12 of his friends that he flew, and that they believed he flew, and that.
Hold on. Wait, can I throw in one more thing I want like an early group of people who all believed that he flew. Like
his 12 friends.
Like say a sense.
Yeah,
and like an early group of people, built around that as well.
Yeah, churches
keep going.
They started small.
Yeah, churches of flying man. Yeah, churches flying man. Some leading up theology that comes way before him.
Yeah,
and got like it seems that like it was set up in such a way that there's like this precursor that pointed to flying, taking away sins, and then it seems that there were billions of people afterward who believed in it.
Yes.
Yeah. The billions of people one, I don't, I'm wondering, like, okay, it seems weird to like give lots of credence to the fact that people believe it, so therefore it's true. Like, you shouldn't push that too far. But then there's the other idea, like, okay, if there were only if there was only a couple hundred people who believed it, then like, God did a terrible job with this flying man stuff, because it's like, okay, he made this way to heaven or whatever, but then it's like only a couple hundred people got it out of 7 billion. But then like 3 billion out of 7 billion, okay, I could chalk that up to free will just fine.
Okay, but the fact that it grew so fast and all the way up to 3 billion, does that make it more likely to be true?
Oh yeah, because like God has providential control over the world. Like if that actually, I think, does lend credence to the idea that it is from God.
Really?
Yes. Well, okay, like Doug, set your beliefs aside, like the atheism, and look at it from a Christian perspective. The way religions are like placed out across the world, like geographically, and like in what proportions and whatnot, that is in essence based up to, or like that is in large part due to the way that God runs the world. It's in large part due to his providence.
If it's true that at one point in history, human history, that let's say 95% of the planet believed the Earth was flat, does that mean it's more likely the Earth is flat?
Of course not.
Okay. is it more likely that my ancestor flew if 3 billion people saw it? I mean, believe that it's true?
Yes, because
why does it work for the flying man but not the Earth?
Okay, well, the thing is, like, one of them is actually like something God has to get done. Like, if he's a loving God, he's going to want people to go to heaven, right? And your flying man thing does that, so he's going to want that to be propagated. But like flat Earth, I don't see any reason why God would want that. Does that make sense?
Oh, brother.
That wasn't a no.
I'm just, to be honest, I'm flabbergasted that that you think it's more likely my ancestor flew because 3 billion people believe it.
Well, okay.
Well, let me put it this way. Within the thought experiment, let's say that it's true. Let's say we have omniscience and we know the truth.
Yeah, we know it's true.
Yeah. If you and I know it's true that he didn't fly, how would you explain 3 billion people believing in it?
Sorry, I misunderstood. Like, if it is true,
if it were true that my ancestor did not fly, but yet 3 billion people believe it, how would you explain that?
Oh, maybe that religion is really close to the true religion, so the propagation of that religion helps move somebody over from the false religion to the true religion. Like, if there were like those 3 billion people were atheists, it would be harder for him to move them from atheism to the true religion than from the flying man belief to the true religion. That's one explanation.
If Islam in the next 50 years gets bigger than Christianity, does that mean it's more true than Christianity?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, then why 3 billion people being more than Christianity make it more likely true?
Okay, so I hope I'm being clear. The idea is that, like, see, this is why I don't like live streams. When I make a video, I think it's usually pretty clear what I'm saying, like an animated video. Probably have to make an animated video after this to kind of explain what I'm saying.
Let me keep it really simple then.
Yeah.
Did you say that if 3 billion people believe my ancestor flew, then it's more likely it's true? Did you say that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then I asked you, if Islam became bigger than Christianity, does that mean that Islam is more likely to be the true religion? And you said...
Oh, I thought you meant more likely than Christianity. I think it does describe like some sort of evidence to it. Yes, it does provide evidence for it. Yes.
Okay, so
I don't think that evidence...
If in 50 years, through procreation, Islam becomes the biggest religion in the world, bigger than Christianity, you're saying that Islam is more likely to be true compared to Christianity?
No, not compared to Christianity. Compared to where it was previously, like that. That makes... Okay,
I'm comparing it to Christianity.
Where Islam was.
You say
no, not compared to Christianity.
Okay,
no, because there are other factors beyond just the numbers.
Okay, so Islam would not be more true compared to Christianity. Now, if my flying man within the thought experiment is bigger than Christianity, is it more likely to be truer than Christianity?
That one's hard to say because we're trying to like mirror the evidence for the flying man.
Why wouldn't you say no like you did with Islam?
I just said why.
Because it's not mirroring it enough, you said?
No, because we are mirroring it. We're in this thought experiment. We're trying to try and mirror all the evidence I have for the flying man to the evidence for Christianity. So then it's like I'm trying to compare this worldview that has all the other kinds of evidence outside of it. Because when I'm doing the comparison to Christianity to Islam, I'm thinking about things like the Prophet Muhammad, the Quran, and like. So
you're saying because my flying man thought experiment is mirroring Christianity, it's more likely to be true the bigger it gets.
Well, so I think that there are multiple pieces of evidence that count towards Christianity, and I think that one of them is the size of Christianity. So if we have two religions that are equivalent in every way, except that the one has bigger size, then I think that one wins out evidentially, just because of the way we find the evidence.
Okay, but 2,000 years ago, when Christianity first started, it was smaller than Judaism, yes?
Yes.
Was it less likely to be true than Judaism, that denies the Trinity and thinks that Jesus wasn't the God in flesh?
So
less true back then?
That's a good question. So I'm thinking
Thank you, that's what I do.
Oh, we get to philosophy later, but I'm thinking you're probably getting pretty tired of me. Anyways, you enjoying this?
Well, this is more enjoyable than philosophy, because now we're getting to the root of why you believe
philosophy. But okay, anyways, we're literally doing a thought experiment, dog.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and okay, all right. So evidence is person-centric. So it's like the people who are closer to the resurrection itself, like they had different resurrection, like the eyewitness testimony of the
That
people
wasn't my
who
question.
saw it. No,
Remember you
I'm
said
saying,
I
like, would it
remember
be
you
more-
said I had a great question. The great question I asked you was, when Christianity first started, it was smaller than Judaism. And my question was, does that mean it was more likely to be less true than Judaism?
So I'm asking which perspective. I'm saying like from the perspective
your
of like
perspective.
the Christians that,
From
my
you-
perspective,
from you looking at
what
it.
perspective do I see Jesus? Okay, so I'm looking at the timeline. Do I see Jesus actually rising from the dead in this timeline? Obviously not, because then I just say, yeah, Jesus rose from the dead. What kind of evidence am I looking at now?
All you know at this point is we have a small group of people who believe a man rose from the dead and claim to be God in flesh and claim to do some miracles, and it's just growing, just started. Let's say there's 200 people, 300 people, disciples and their friends. I'd even say 1,000 people. There's more Jews than that. So my question is, you know this data. Now you know the numbers. Let's say 1,000 compared to, I don't know how many Jews there were, 1 million. Do you say that because Christianity was so small, it's less likely to be true?
No, me taking this kind of whatchamacallit, this stat viewpoint, I'd be lacking any sort of good reconciliatory hypothesis at this point. So I'd be open to that. The small group of Christians, like, oh, maybe this is where God comes into history. But like, I'd have to see how it goes. Like, how it unfolds.
I guess I need to
This is
ask you
valid.
this. I need to ask you this. Do you think truth is dependent on the number of people who believe it?
No, like my argument is
Okay,
not.
I
A lot
agree
of
with
people
you.
Believe it's true, so it's true.
I agree with you. So then let's just do away with this nonsense of 3 billion, and you're more likely to believe it's true then.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. Let me put it this way. If we're thinking about, okay, let's imagine Christianity was true. What would we expect? We'd expect there to be a lot of Christians. Like, if there
most
were
of the
just
planet are not Christian.
Yes, I didn't say majority. I'm saying like we'd expect there to be a lot of Christians.
Would define
it would
a
be
lot.
very weird. A couple billion.
That's what it actually is. Yeah, isn't that convenient?
Yeah.
If Christianity is true, we would expect a lot of Christians. That wasn't the case 2,000 years ago.
Okay. If the Christianity is true, like then Jesus would have risen from the dead, and you would have eyewitnesses of that.
If Islam is
2,000 years
true,
ago.
if Islam is true, then Gabriel would have spoken Allah's words directly to Muhammad.
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't really help us to get to whether it's actually true, though. It does it.
What do you mean?
I mean, just to say that if this X happened doesn't mean that that religion is true. I mean, it's a tautology, really. And I hear guys like Mike Licona and Gary Habermas say this all the time. Well, if Jesus rose from the dead, then Christianity is true. That's actually one of the stupidest things to ever say. You know why? Because if Jesus appeared before Joseph Smith and gave him the golden plates or where it was located, and this is now the true gospel, then Mormonism is true. And if the angel Gabriel spoke to Muhammad in a cave, then Islam is true. And if, I don't know, the Buddha or whatever, then Buddhism is true. I tell you, what comes from that? It's one of the most silliest things to say. Do you agree?
I don't think. Sorry, I lost you. I have
You
more
know what?
distractions.
You know what, Apologetics Squared? I thank you for coming on, but I think we should end it here
Okay,
because it
By
seems
the
like you're
way,
distracted and
I'm sorry. Yeah. By the way, I know that my argument looks kind of dumb, but that's because like I'm having trouble articulating it. Like this, like I said at the beginning, live streams make it more difficult. Like I know my if you think that my argument looks kind of dumb, that's probably because I'm having difficulty explaining it very clearly.
I understand, and I understand that. Like for me, I don't feel any pressure because it's my live stream, and I've done this so many years. And for new people coming in, it's a little difficult. I get that.
Thank you. Hopefully your live chat does too.
Yeah. Give them some grace. I think like when I was a Christian, if you were to ask me those questions, I would say, well, there was eyewitnesses, Doug, and they say that they saw it, and why would they die for their faith? And I would have given like a pretty quick list of all the reasons why I would believe. But then what I would do as an atheist is I would go through that exact same type of evidence and apply it to a claim you don't currently believe and see if you're consistent. And what ends up happening is there is something inside the individual when they hear this claim, especially if the claim says that Jesus Christ is not God in flesh, but really it's this other guy. There's this psychological pushback. It's like it's fight or flee type mode, and say no, but mine is special. Mine is special. Don't say that this is true. And so, but yet it's the same evidence. And so if you don't believe my ancestor flew based on that evidence, then why are you believing Jesus rose from the dead based on that same type
Great
of
question,
evidence?
but you did. Great question, but like for like other people, I did get to lean yes.
Yes, and this is where some Christians are really going to hate me, because, and maybe this is just the difference between our epistemologies, but when I heard you say you lean yes after what 3 or 4 things we talked about, in my mind,
I don't remember the number.
Yeah, but in my mind, you know what I was thinking about you?
I have no idea.
I was thinking, shame on you.
Shame on me.
I mean, if I were a bad person, I would get some salesmen to your door right away, because you'll believe almost anything.
Okay.
I know that sounds very harsh, but and I don't know how much, when you say that you were leaning yes, that my ancestor flew based on those 4 or 5 things, whatever it was, I'm not quite sure I believe you, to be honest. Because I'm not sure if you're saying that because you know where it's headed and you don't want to look inconsistent, or if you really do believe that a man literally flew across the Grand Canyon just by himself, no wings, no nothing, just flew. I don't know. Maybe you can answer for like as honestly as you can.
I'm trying to like imagine.
Yeah. Do you really believe
as honestly as I can? Like after you gave me like the kind of minimal facts that you get for Christianity, give me theological, a nice strong theological reasons for why he'd have to rise from the dead and so on, and that this entire world has been transformed by that. Then I'm thinking, yeah, maybe. But like, I'm sorry, Doug, I gotta get going.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
I hear your phone doing stuff in the background. And
yes.
Okay, well, thanks
Goodbye.
for coming on. Yep. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. This is exactly why people who love philosophy want to just talk about philosophy. Because once you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, hey, I remember you, Dale.
Hey, I remember you too. You're that PineCreek guy, right?
Yeah, I'm the PineCreek, and you're that marketing guy, right?
Yes.
The
I saw you
pushes
had
and
one
pulls.
of those handsome gents on from before. That Apologetics Squared. He looks just like he does in his animations with the square.
I like you. Do you play poker?
I do not actually.
Do you have money?
I don't know.
Okay, never mind then.
It's all in the house. But I do actually want to talk a little bit about gambling and expected returns. Because,
about Pascal's wager.
About Pascal's wager. That's right.
Okay.
Because Apologetics Squared video, I believe, hinted at that.
Yep.
And that's kind of what he wanted to talk about.
Oh, hang on. I can show your face, right?
Of course, always.
Oh, yeah. I apologize to the viewers. They were not privy to your beautiful hair like I was.
Ah, yes.
I have hair.
There I am.
I have hair envy. Okay, go ahead. Pascal's wager.
Yeah, so I can see where he was coming from and sort of the idea that he's talked about the idea of the atheist loving God and that not being very likely. But what I would want to get at is, well, when you think about Christianity, is there really one Christianity? There's really like a lot of different denominations and stuff. And the very first thing in our 10 Commandments, our very most important rules, as far as I remember, is don't believe in a false God.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, if you have the wrong idea of Christianity, you ain't going to heaven.
Right.
Probably
But his
going to a
point,
bad place.
let me steel man him.
Yep.
He was saying that each person within their own theological framework will have this belief that their religion is true. So if you're a Jew or Muslim, a Trinitarian, Unitarian, it doesn't matter. For them personally, they would say to themselves that other people should believe what they believe, because if they don't, a huge negative payoff and a huge positive payoff if they do believe.
Yes.
And so
and
at
that's
that
what I
point,
want to get at.
yeah, and at that point, we're not talking about the probabilities within each religion. We're just talking about, for them personally, they have a moral obligation to get people to believe what they believe is the true payoff. And so therefore, but that doesn't apply to those dirty atheists.
Yes. So I want to get to why it applies to us dirty atheists. And that's because if there's a heaven, in theory, you have infinitely more probability, because now not only do you get into heaven with the atheist loving God.
Why did you just hang up on William Lane Craig? He was calling you.
Yeah. Sorry, William. You don't only go into heaven for the atheist loving God, you go into heaven for all of the envious gods who don't want you worshiping another God, right? You go to heaven for all those works gods that, like what you do. You go to heaven for all these other gods that, if you believe, now you're believing possibly in a false God. So your expected value, your expected return, much, much lower.
Well, that's basically what I said. But I framed it as, I think most atheists would say, if there's a God, he probably would reward people like me who believe that all the religions of the world are false.
Yeah. And then another way that I think is important when talking about evidence and things like that, and since we're already bringing up the concept of an atheist God, bring up the idea perhaps of a trickster God who likes to lay little traps to see if maybe we believe in the wrong things. Maybe see if he puts out bad evidence, like, say, a popular religion based off, just a couple things that someone saw, puts down a couple plants, gives people a couple hallucinations.
Maybe this God is a little devious, and he did actually have an angel come down and trick Muhammad, and did actually think this guy named Jesus was God in flesh. And
we could actually say all of these things are true, but believing in them is bad.
Yeah, based on insufficient evidence. I got it. Yeah, that makes sense. So
that's sort of, I don't normally make a case for atheism because of that, in a sense. I generally make the cases we don't have sufficient evidence. But I do think if you're going to make a case for it and you're going to try to cause doubt, you can kind of say, hey, even with all your evidence, because we don't have the demonstration of the God itself, it's still a 50-50 at best.
Yeah. I agree with you. I've always said there's no good reasons for atheism, but I might have to change my mind and basically plead sincerely to all my theist friends, give up your theistic religions now before it's too late.
I know, right? It increases your chances of getting to heaven by literally infinity, because now all the envious gods like you, right?
Right. Well, thanks for coming on, Dale. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me, man. Have a good one.
Yep. Need an atheist altar call. Felix is going to, I see your hand, Felix. You're coming to the front, right behind the PineCreek pew, pulpit. I know, I see your weeping. I see your tears, Felix. I see that you've seen the light. All you have to do now is confess with your mouth that none of the religions are Lord. Should Christians delete their YouTube channels? Yes, Digital knows this. I mean, since what I'm saying is true, anytime the apologetic empire makes Christian YouTube content, they're drawing people away from the true God, the atheist God, and potentially leading people to a really bad place. And I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to see people hurt, neither in this life or the life to come, if it exists. And for all you atheists out there who come from Islam or come from Christianity and have this fear of hell still lingering, please know you are doing the right thing. Because if there's a God out there, he knows you. He knows that you saw the horrible evidence for what it was and overcame it, overcame the indoctrination, the culture that you're in. Who come from Islam. Hey, you're on, Clutch. Yeah, just turn off your YouTube browser tab. What do you have to say, Clutch?
Authority surrounding the entire conversation.
Sorry, I had you muted for your first 30 seconds. I apologize. Let me try to summarize what you just said. You watched Apologetics Squared's channel. You saw the video, and it was interesting to you that he was saying that you shouldn't criticize certain religions. That's basically what you said, right?
Well, I mean, that was in the video. I mean, he opened it up by saying that, you know, all atheists should delete their channels and stop criticizing Christianity. And then at the very end, he was saying that there were bigger implications as to when and how it's okay to criticize religion. And so I feel like the base of his argument was just saying, like, okay, everyone who's engaging in counter apologetics should just stop and shut their mouths, which is very much in line with like the precept argument, just like shut up, fool, shut your mouth. You know, this is what's important to me, and I'm sick of you criticizing it. And I think that's the big part about it. Is like, you know, we understand that it's important to you, but it's when they try and use those religious objections to try and legislate laws and just use their, you know, religious objections to just violate a lot of people's personal autonomies. You know,
well, yeah, they were clear that they didn't want to do that, but and I think it was clickbait title sort of thing. I didn't really take it too seriously when it first came out. That was like a long time ago. I didn't even know it existed until I saw it on Braxton Hunter's channel, and yeah, to me it's funny because it shows just how much fear they have by seeing how much atheism is growing.
Yeah. I think there's a fear that, you know, the fear about atheism growing, but, you know, I feel like there's just the very dishonest element of knowing that as atheism's growing, that it's less people in the pews, it's less money in the plate, it's just less overall power, it's less overall control. And I feel like, you know, when you engage in apologetics, like, you know, when you engage in apologetics, you're basically saying that like the emperor has no clothes. Like, you know, you have to try and explain a position that you kind of know deep down is irrational, but you know, you just have to jump through those hoops for it because.
Well, you know, I have like 6 or 7 apologists that constantly work to demonstrate or prove my existence. How many do you have?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty new to this entire conversation. You know, I've just been watching a lot of what's going on, sitting on the sidelines.
But the point I was making is we don't need apologists to demonstrate or to prove or to show that we exist. But for your God, you do.
Right. Yeah. And that's a big part of it, is that it's like, if your God is as great as you say he is, what does he need you for?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, I just, yeah, you know, it's just very disappointing to see something like religion just be so anti-intellectual, anti-democratic, anti-human rights, and anti-science. Just
but there is one apologetics channel that claims to delve into the intellectual side of Christianity. Have you heard of it? It's called Capturing Christianity. All they do is the intellectual side.
Oh, there is one?
I'm being very sarcastic right now. Yeah, I played them early on this live stream.
Yeah, but I just I just really wanted to add some points because I was aware of when that video came out, and it just, again, it was just really strange because it's just like, okay, like, even to some extent too, it's like, man, this is America. Like, I thought, the whole idea is that we were all supposed to coexist with all of our, cultural differences and, get to learn more about each other. And that seems to be a big objection on the Christian right too, that it's like people get out of the bubble and learn more about other people. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, tolerance, like.
But if you truly believe that God doesn't like it when two men have coitus, if you truly believe that there's a heaven and hell, and that it's a bad place, hell, and the way you get around that is to commit your life to Christ. If you truly believe this, then I guess in a way, they're doing what they think is a loving thing to do.
And at the end of the day, people are going to be people. Again, I just find it interesting that just something like a belief in a God empowers someone to kind of behave in the ways that they do, and how much it kind of skews more towards amoral behavior than the moral behavior that it proselytizes. So,
hey, Clutch, do you play poker?
I do not. Actually, I don't gamble at all. I'm terrible at it.
Well, are you an atheist?
Yes.
You do gamble. You're gambling with your eternal destiny.
I guess I know. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to enjoying life and doing things that I like, and not living with the psychological pressure of an eternal boogeyman.
Yeah, I understand. Well, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thank you, and I really appreciate what you do.
Thanks. Take care.
Yep.
Oh, Wellington, I remember you. There, you got it turned off? I see you. Do you see me? You have to turn off your other YouTube tab.
I have. Hi, Doug.
Hi, I remember you.
Oh, you do? Hi, how you doing?
You're the Calvinist guy, right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Oh, so this whole topic that we're talking about today is kind of irrelevant to you, right?
Not at all. Not at all. I was just feeling a bit sorry for my brother AS there. I mean, he tried to stick up for his belief, but yeah, you did blow some pretty nasty holes in it. But you had caveat. You said you were gonna be nice, and then you weren't really nice at the end. Can I just say that?
Well, no, I was being. Okay.
Don't say no. Don't say no.
Okay, I was mean at the end, but I was being honest and truthful.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you that. And if he's listening, though, I almost wanted to jump in to say, you need to calm down to this. The belief in Christianity, Doug, is not based upon your epistemological position.
Well, I know you're a Calvinist. I understand that, but for him, he's not a Calvinist, and so he thinks he needs to have philosophical and historical evidence.
Fair point, Doug. You got me. You're on ball. You're on ball. I've got to give you that. I mean, I totally think your position. And another thing, I think you're sneaky a little bit, Doug.
I'm sneaky?
A little bit, yes. Your claim to atheism or non-religious inclination because of lack of evidence is still a belief system, and you're just like me. I have to give an account for my belief. So do you. You don't get a get out of jail card free, Doug.
Okay, I understand, but I will not make an apology for not believing stuff based on insufficient evidence.
You have a belief, and your belief is that God does not exist based upon non-exhaustive empirical evidence. That's your belief.
You're right, but your belief is that I don't believe because God hasn't done something in me first.
No. I'll tell you what. If you want to know what I believe, ask me. But
okay, what do you believe?
Position. You be honest. You've been honest throughout.
Okay.
I won't take that away from you. But you need to also be honest that your claim to atheism is a belief system based on some rational thought process that you have.
Okay.
And
No,
I can tell,
are you
and I
asking me,
could
or
say,
you can just ask me if.
and I could say, Doug, that if you have not traversed throughout the universe to point somewhere to say, I've gone throughout all the universe and God is not there, so therefore God does not
Yeah,
exist.
and I don't say that. I don't claim to have omniscience that I know for sure. I say I believe Christianity is 99.9% false. Like that's my confidence level.
That's fine. I'll give you that. And that's a rational position for you to arrive at. And I can give it to you without trying to kill you or hate you for it.
Right. Hey, just hang on a second. My one black friend, not you, Wellington, but someone in the live stream chat says, can we get the religious to have a colloquium with their gods and the tenets? Each god could explain why we deserve our worship. Yeah, that would be fun. I did that once with a Jew and Christian once. It was a Jew, Christian, and me, and we had a nice little talk on modern day debates. But thanks for the donation, my one black friend. And... thanks. Anti-Bigfoot. Hang on a second. Anti-Bigfoot. Thank you for your donation. Okay, go ahead.
You're canvassing for donations. They should donate money to me, Doug.
Why?
But I wanted to say that in England, you can't say black. I can say you're a white guy.
Black.
Stop it, Doug. I'm in England. My neighbors will hear you.
What are you supposed to say? Like if you were to rob a bank and I was a witness and the police comes up to me and says, okay, give me a description. Well, he has a lot of melanin. Is that
yes, and he's Calvinistic. You can throw that in there.
He was 6 feet tall, lots of melanin, and he believes that the reason why I'm going to hell is because God didn't give me the Holy Spirit. Okay, I know who that is. That's Wellington. Let's go to his house and pick him up.
And really, I also wanted really to make something clear that I hope you put it in the basket of everything, that there is no empirical evidence that God exists. There's no science experience you can perform to demonstrate that. Nobody was there when the world came into being. Me and you, Doug, were not there.
I agree.
Christianity is based on faith alone. And really on the epistemological point of view, and here's a philosophy, brother, just understand this, is that the claims that Christ makes are so huge and they are not verifiable. It is this, I would say that there's a third way of knowledge, ways of knowledge. Science, I'm a scientist myself, and it's very useful.
What field?
I'm a civil engineer.
Okay.
Highways.
Good.
Yeah. So I need data to make a judgment professionally on what to do in certain situations. And that data may not be exhaustive, but my experience comes to it and my training, etc., etc. But when it comes to belief in God, that doesn't work. Or really belief or belief that there isn't a God.
Why?
That doesn't work.
Why the different standard? Like if you're into building highways, are you in the planning stage or are you down on the ground doing stuff?
Yeah, a detailed stage. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're building a bridge or like a bypass freeway or whatever, that's multi-layers, not for 1 second would you build that bridge based on faith, would you?
No. I rely on data, measurements, etc. Physics, theories in physics.
Okay, when it comes to the safety of humans driving on a car over a bridge, why do you trust or base your how you construct it based on the data, but when it comes to God, you base it on faith?
It's time, Doug. You see, when I do a bridge, various other people have built bridges before, and there've been various collapses that we study and then we improve on the science to get better and better to predict and to try and know that under certain conditions, this bridge will work. Under certain conditions, it won't work. We need that. It's not exhaustive.
I know, but why don't you apply that same standard to God?
Before we jump that, I don't use quantum theory to build a bridge. I use Newtonian physics, which most of it has developed further than what it is, but it still works. We have safety factors in there That's why we put safety factors for the unknowns. We know what we don't know, that, you know, there's a limit to what that data produces. But when you talk about God, when you talk about God, you move into the realm of truth. Truth does not change. Just like
but we're talking about the epistemology, not the ontology. We're talking about how we know it's true.
Oh, yes. But how we know it true is not only data does not give you. There's a third way. We Christians, if faith is given to you, it is revelation. You see, it's not experience. It's not, I know that God loves me because the Bible says so. Not through some alter experience flying in the sky or anything. No, I believe it because that belief has been given.
So if it were true that the core propositions of Christianity were false, how would you know that?
If it were true that what?
That the core propositions of Christianity, like God, Jesus being God and he died and rose for your sins, if it were true that that is false, that Jesus wasn't God and he didn't rise from the dead.
Yeah, you don't need, in English, we don't use double negatives. This is where you're throwing me off.
Okay, sorry for using a double negative, but
yeah,
if you were wrong about Christianity,
thank you. Say that, yes.
If you were wrong about Christianity, is there any way for you to know that?
Absolutely, there's no way, because this is why then we're most miserable. Our hope is vain. You see, my whole belief system relies on Christ's claim that he came from the Father.
I understand that.
Because Christ says no one has seen God. And I have. I've come from there. And I've come here to save you. And I am saving you. Believe in me. If you believe in me, you believe in God whom you cannot see.
But hang on a second, Wellington.
It's transparent. I don't know what you atheists say. I don't know what you've seen, whether you've seen no God throughout the whole universe to make your claims on that. But you believe in something you have no substance. There's nobody to back up your claim, basically.
Okay, but I want to go back to what you first said. I asked you if there's a way to falsify basically your beliefs, and you said no, correct?
No, there isn't. It's the same thing that I couldn't falsify your atheism.
Well, okay, I understand what you're getting at there, but let's be more specific then. Is there a way to falsify that Jesus Christ rose from the dead?
No, Jesus Christ was, get this, I'm African. And I was very African. Before I converted to Christianity, I said, why do I have to believe in this white man's God? Don't we have our own gods in Africa that we've been passed down through the generations? Oh, yes, we do. Yeah, we have a history. Hello? You know, as same as white people have a history, so do we.
Would you say it's important to you to know if your beliefs are true or not?
Oh, absolutely. But I am convinced on Christ's claim of divinity.
Okay, so I understand that. But let's say we have two beliefs and you care whether or not your beliefs are true. So if we have two beliefs, one belief can be falsified and one belief can't. So in other words, there's really no way to know if this belief is true or not. But this one you can.
No, Doug, your claim to falsify something, I'll go back to something that you talked about earlier, is that all human beings, all of us, we seek a cognitive harmony, not dissonance.
Right.
We can attack each other's beliefs to try and point out the illogical or tensions within it. And that is fair game. What you did to AS, my brother, is fair game. I wouldn't hate you for doing that. And I would think that is right for you to question him. He should go back and read what he believes in and knows what he believes in.
But I want to get back to this falsifiability thing, because if we have two beliefs or two claims, one you can falsify, one you can't. I would say this claim is more valuable because we can actually figure out the truth or get close to the truth at least compared to this one.
But yeah. So change your word, because English words are very important. Don't say falsify, but you can attack a belief system based upon its coherence and logical
Okay.
validity.
Can you attack it to the point where it's, in your opinion, you ought to disavow that belief because?
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Okay. So what would you need to see? What type of incoherence would you need to see within Christianity for you to say, you know what, Christianity is false?
The biggest one, I think, that could put us on a level playing field, because we need to find common ground. Outside, I wouldn't use miracles because I don't believe I believe miracles are. I don't believe any empirical thing. Even if you do have miracles, they don't prove something to be true or false. What I would say between me and you, Doug, is me and you are both sinners. We do wrong. And Christianity has the most logical, and this is not a foolproof, by
But
the way.
that wasn't my question, Wellington. My question was, you were talking about you can use the word attack certain religions for their coherence or not coherence. What would you need to see in order for you to say, oh no, Christianity is incoherent. What I thought was true is maybe not true?
Oh, that's a good, yeah. I mean, that's a good question. That's valid. What would I look for to make me walk away from it?
Yeah.
You'd have, I couldn't go there because the faith that has, you see, this is it, is because when I look at it, the faith that I have is not based upon some logical or philosophical reasons.
It's based on?
It's based on revelation. It's been given to me to believe that Christ
well,
is God.
what if it wasn't? What if the revelation you think was given to you to believe actually is false, and it wasn't given to you by a God at all?
Well, it doesn't need to be given to me as false. Whatever is true. You see, this is why I asked you to not, in the English language, we don't use double negatives, because that in itself becomes illogical.
But can someone say that they've received revelation from God and be mistaken?
Muhammad received a revelation.
Okay, how do you know you're not like Muhammad?
Because I don't believe I don't believe I'm gonna receive.
No. How do you know you're not? How do you know that what the revelation you think you got was maybe not a revelation from God at all, and that it's false? How do you know that you're not one of those people like a Muslim?
Because I believe that Christ is the Son of God, and through him, it's a gift that has been given to me.
Why do you believe you received that gift? Why do you believe that gift even exists?
Because it pleased God to give some of us that gift, so that.
How do you know that God gave you that gift? How do you know God gave that gift?
I've got no outside. You're asking me for an outside experience or some empirical evidence. I'm not too sure what type of. You see, all ideas. It depends what type of evidence you're looking for. Are you looking for an empirical evidence?
I'm just asking you to give me an answer of why do you believe God gave you a gift? Why do you believe this God revealed himself to you through Christianity? Why do you believe any of this is true?
I'll answer that, Doug, by taking you back, that I've been honest to tell you that I believe that God created everything we see and don't see simply by faith.
Okay, define faith for me.
Faith is a conviction that we all have. The conviction that I have has been given to me direct. God has put it in me, in my spirit.
How do you know that God gave you that conviction?
Because I have it, Doug.
Can someone say they have a conviction and be wrong?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you know you're not wrong?
How do I know I'm not wrong? Oh, that's a very there we come. Because once you see, in logical rules, I'll answer it this way. In logical rules, commandments are not true. But once you say God says, that is a preposition that has truth value in it.
Can a book say? Are you talking about in a book or?
No, let me answer, Doug.
Okay.
There's only one thing that we all inherently know is that, oh well, maybe not all of us. It is impossible for God to lie. God is incapable of telling a lie. He can't do it. You know, there are things God can't do.
But when you say when God says something, it can't be a lie.
I can tell you lies.
Right.
I can be illogical. But God, it's impossible. If you walked up to God and asked him, did my uncle fly through the canyon? His answer will be, if he did, he'll say, yes, he did. If he didn't, he'll say, no, he didn't, because I didn't make him do that. And you would not need to travel 2,000 years back to your uncle.
Okay, Wellington, hang on a second. When you say when God says something, he doesn't lie. For example, when it says in Exodus, is it 20, where the 10 Commandments, you shall have no other gods before me?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe God said that?
Yes.
Why?
Oh, because it pleased him to say that.
Why do you believe can something be written in a book where it claims that God said something and be false, that God never claimed that?
We do. That's why we call there many false prophets. I can tell you, Doug, God said, close down.
How do you know what was written in Exodus 20 was not written by a false prophet?
It's by faith. I have no other reason, Doug. I was not there when it was written. My ancestors come from Africa. I have no linkages to the Hebrew Bible whatsoever.
If I were talking to a Muslim and he said, and I asked him, why does he believe that the Quran is the perfect word of Allah? And he says, and if he says by faith, would that be a good reason for him to believe it?
Oh, it's a good reason for him to believe it because he's been born into that.
Okay.
And that's all he has.
So would that be true though?
No.
Okay.
No, because
faith, hang on, Wellington, we're almost there. Is faith a good way to get to truth?
Faith, hold on. How do we all have faith?
No. Listen to my question. You said with the Muslim, if he says, I have faith that the Quran is the perfect written word of Allah, and I ask him, why do you believe that? He says, by faith. And I asked you, is the Quran true? And you said no. And now we have an example of someone using faith to arrive at a false conclusion. Agreed?
Agreed, Doug.
Okay. So is faith a good way to determine what is true or not?
It's not either whether it's good or not good. What it is that it's reality. We all have faith in what we believe.
Do you desire to believe true things?
Pardon?
Do you want to believe true things?
Everybody does. The whole definition of faith.
If your goal, hang on, Wellington, if your goal is to believe as many true things as possible, do you think faith is a good way to?
It's not a matter of goal. It's part of rationality. It's part of the attributes of rationality.
But the bottom line is you want to believe true things, yes?
No. What I believe to be true is what I'm convinced is true.
I understand that. But
you believing in atheism is you've arrived at a point where you have faith that your convictions are true. And you want us to believe that it's true that there is no God. I accept that.
No, but listen to my question, which you still haven't answered. Is faith a good way to determine what's true or not, using faith?
No, Doug. It isn't.
Okay, well, when I asked you, how do you know God revealed this in Exodus 20, you said by faith.
No, you were asking me. That's my position. It is by faith that I believe the propositions of the Bible.
Right. Do you believe the propositions of the Bible are true?
Yes, Doug.
How? Why? How?
It is by faith that I believe them.
But you just admitted that faith doesn't get you to truth.
No, I didn't say it doesn't get you to truth, Doug.
Well, let me ask you, is faith a good way to get you to truth?
Don't run away. Don't run away from this, Doug. I've said to you and made it clear that faith is an inherent point. It's an attribute of us. If I have faith in something, I believe it to be true and express it as true to anyone who may ask me that it is what it is. It doesn't mean that the faith itself is a good reason to arrive at truth. That's a cyclical argument. Would totally throw you out with Aristotle.
Wellington, I want to sum up here, and you tell me if I'm wrong, and I'll try to repeat back some of the things you said. When I ask you if you believe that it's important to believe is true things, I think you said yes. You just nod your head or shake your head if you disagree.
Wait, Doug. These are important things that need to be qualified.
Okay.
Not a yes or no question, because otherwise you wouldn't run this channel that way. No. What I'm saying, Doug, is that having faith is not proof of the validity of your faith.
Yeah.
Everyone has faith.
I'm not talking about proof. I'm not talking about certainty. All I am asking you is...
It doesn't even mean that it is an element. Just because you have faith doesn't mean what you have faith in is true. It doesn't. We all know that. This is why I understand. You start a business. If you started a business, Doug, you started believing that you will profit from it. It doesn't mean you will profit from it. It doesn't, Doug. It doesn't follow on.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, Wellington.
Yeah. So there's no need to say shut down all the businesses, because we all pursue business with a profitable empire, hoping that our faith that it will works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Doug.
You play poker?
No, I don't. I wish I did.
Okay. Well, if you ever learn, let me know. I have a poker night once in a while.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I might. That's interesting.
We can see each other, hear each other. It's just a family home game, fun family home game, and yeah. So.
I would love that. I'll
and you can use faith to know what cards are going to come on the flop. Anyhow, take care.
Take care. We all use faith.
Yeah, you got to turn off your tab. Wellington thought I was... Yeah, you got to turn off your tab, though, and then I'll unmute you. Yeah, I can hear myself in the background. No bloviating about the design and fine-tuning argument, though. I've heard it 1,000 times. Thanks for the donation, Mad Metro. Lovely SC, Doug. You deserve some Disney World. Yes, I'm going to Disney World in next week. Okay, so I'll unmute you now because I can't hear myself anymore. So was I too hard on Wellington? Otangelo?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. You can hear me?
Oh, now it works. First time.
Yeah, glad it finally works. Was I too hard on Wellington and Apologetics Squared?
Well, I just joined your stream, so I didn't listen to the entire conversation. So
okay,
I just hear to the last part about faith. And I mean, there is reasonable faith, non-reasonable faith, and there is blind faith. And in the end, each of our worldviews, yours as well, that there is no God, it is based on faith. You have no absolute certainty that beyond the physical universe, there is no God. So
yeah,
your position is in as much based on faith as ours, that there is actually a creator. So,
well,
yeah.
A lot of atheists would be screaming right now and saying, no, that's not true. But if you define, depends on how you define faith. You kind of did. I think if you define faith as trust, there's definitely things we can trust every day that we don't know with certainty. So in that sense, I agree with you. But the real question is, how do you know when your faith is misplaced? That's, to me, the bigger issue, because I can have faith in this chair right now, but I know my faith is misplaced if I fall to the ground in the next 10 seconds.
Yes, I agree, of course. And I mean, we want to believe, as you said previously, what is true, and we don't want to be deceived. And I think in order to get to that, you need, first of all, to have a sound epistemological framework upon which you can investigate origins, and then apply it and make your investigation, and eventually find out what explains best our existence.
So why do you believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead?
Because of the Bible and the Shroud of Turin.
Why do you believe the Bible is true on that point about
Well,
Jesus
there are
rise from the dead?
several. It's faith, yeah, but there are several lines of reasoning, prophecies, historical evidence of the historical Jesus, the influence that it had right after he died. People, they were willing to die for their faith, for their belief. And,
So it's the common list of things that I often talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. And the flying man thought experiment doesn't enlighten you to that maybe those are, if we were to take those reasons and apply it to a different system of beliefs that you currently don't hold, that doesn't impact you at all?
No. No.
Do you think it's because of the personal experience you had a long time ago? Do you think that's the reason why?
I don't know, Doug.
How many years ago? You told me on a different live stream about it. How many years ago was it?
Which event?
You told me about some amazing personal experience. You didn't go into detail. You just told me you had one. Yes, or am I confusing you with someone else?
Probably someone else. I mean, I had interesting experiences, but maybe not something which I would say, which I would mention in all streams where I go, oh, I had this and that experience. Yeah.
Yeah, because like what I did with Apologetics Squared earlier, and you probably missed it, is he started talking about the things you talked about, because he wanted to talk philosophy, but you know me, I don't like philosophy, at least not the philosophy of religion. And so we talked about the flying man thought experiment, which some people could say is a philosophical idea because it's a thought experiment, so be it. But he ended up saying that he believed my ancestor could fly unaided, because he saw where it was going and now was mimicking Christianity. And I really don't think most people would believe my ancestor could fly, just fly like a bird, just because 12 people say that it's written that 12 people said that he flew. The spot where he took off from was found empty. They died for their beliefs in the flying man. There was even prophecies in texts earlier that said a man would fly. I still think most people would look at that and say, no, that's not good enough. Come on. But you would say,
I would
agree?
agree. Yes, I would agree. And I mean, the resurrection is just one little piece in the entire worldview, which is made upon many lines of reasoning and evidence. And it's based on science, philosophy, theology, history, archaeology, so many things that converge to our world.
Yeah, but philosophy doesn't really get you to a resurrection, though, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and even archaeological evidence doesn't either.
Well, actually,
does it?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
No, so basically, you're left with the historical method.
Well, as I said, I think that once you consider all these lines of evidence and then converge them, then of course things which cannot be, which are not evidence but faith-based, you take them on faith. And if you believe that Christ,
how do you define faith?
Said to be,
like,
well, there are different kind of faiths, as I said previously.
Well, yeah, but you put adjectives in front of it, but define faith itself.
Yeah, I would say it is confidence in a proposition that it is true.
Okay. Now, why would we use the word faith? Like, would you say faith and confidence are synonyms then?
Sorry?
Would you say they're synonyms? They mean the exactly same thing? Or is faith a little different than confidence? Or is faith a little different than trust? Or are they basically the same thing?
Yeah, I think they can be defined as the same thing.
Okay. So do you have more faith in your wife or that Jesus Christ rose from the dead? Like, let me put it this way. Do you have more faith that your wife exists or more faith that Jesus Christ rose from the dead? I know that's a bit of an unfair question, but to me, it's rhetorical, right? You have more faith that your wife exists than that Jesus Christ rose from the dead, right?
Well, I don't need faith because I know my wife is not a ghost, is not something which is an illusion or something like that.
See, this
right?
is interesting. You said you don't need faith to know that your wife exists because she's there. You see her, you
Right.
hear her, you hear her, you feel her, you touch her. You have other people who have done the same thing as you. So I'm just wondering, if faith is just this confidence, then your confidence that Jesus Christ rose from the dead should be way lower, way lower, because you can't see Jesus. You weren't there. You can't touch, feel, hear Jesus. Am I right that your confidence should be way lower that Jesus Christ rose from the dead than your wife actually exists and that you are married?
Yeah, but I don't need that kind of faith because I have empirical, physical evidence of her existence because I see her, experience her every day on a daily basis. So unless I would not believe in God and I would hold to your worldview, then I would actually say it would be even warranted to question if solipsism is not true. And I mean, it could be that everything around me is just an illusion.
Yeah. But I'm just talking like, it's just you and me here and 429 people watching. And I just think that the evidence that would be required, in my opinion, to believe a man rose from the dead, and I can even give you that a God exists, should be pretty amazing in order to believe it. Would you agree with that?
It is an extraordinary claim. I agree with you on that.
Okay. Now, do you think the evidence is extraordinary for Jesus' resurrection?
Yes.
So you think that, for example, Paul, who didn't even see Jesus, at least Jesus had already died and ascended before Paul came along. You think this experience he had on the Damascus Road is good evidence that Jesus actually appeared to him?
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why not. Because people have visions all the time of things that are not real. Would you agree?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
But do you also agree that eventually there can be supernatural experiences of or events which you can clearly distinguish from something which eventually is caused by a brain damage or something, or a hallucination or something like that?
But I'm glad you agreed with me. So people can have experiences that don't reflect reality. And that happens not very frequently, but still, I would say the majority of people on planet Earth who've ever done drugs, either recreationally or through surgeries or whatever, have had weird, bizarre experiences. This is not uncommon. So why would a person like you, if you do, let me know if you believe this, why would you think that Jesus actually appeared to Paul, think that before thinking that he just had maybe some type of psychological or mental experience?
Well, that would presuppose what you are implying here, Doug, is that everyone who has an extraordinary and supernatural experience, let's say like this, immediately you explain it by that person having hallucinations or something like that.
I'm not presupposing. What I'm saying is just based on the numbers alone. So let's say all of humanity was 100 people and 30 of them had visions and the other 70 people say, no, we didn't see that. We didn't hear that. We didn't feel that. We didn't touch that. But these 30 people each individually have separate, different experiences that no one else can verify. And let's say this is modern, like in today's time, and we can see, we know why this happened. You had an epileptic seizure or whatever, and we can explain that, whatever. So we have like these 30 people as a denominator now. Then we have one person out of the 100 who says, I saw God. And I mean, not just any God, the real God, the creator God. I saw him in flesh. Now, based on just those numbers, 1 versus, the 30 experiences, visions, or whatever you want to call it, wouldn't you just use the probabilities to say it's more likely that this one person should be lumped in with the 30 and not special? Would you agree with that?
Well, I would make a further inquiry and try to get as much information in regards of what this person is saying as possible. And I wouldn't discard outhand that this person maybe had a hallucination which wasn't
No, we both
real.
value truth. We're not going to discard anything out of hand, and he could be right, but it's still more probable that he's with like the other 30 than a special case, yes?
I want to give you an analogy, Doug, in regards of science. You know that there are many open questions in science, and there is a broad consensus by scientists that X is true. But if one person comes and then disproves a consensus, then consensus is gone. And I think majority arguments or ad populum arguments aren't good arguments.
Okay.
And I think,
but is the consensus gone in this case? Like, I think you agreed with me that there are people who have experiences and visions that don't reflect reality. I think you agreed with me. I think you and I are both agreed that this consensus of a certain percentage of the population, this is true. And so this is our background knowledge, right? This is our, until we have reasons to think otherwise, if someone says to us, I saw Jesus, like even today, there's people today who claim to have experiences with Jesus. Even S.J. Thomason, I think, at one time said that to me, that she thought Jesus was sitting on her. That Jesus, do you believe her? That Jesus actually sat on her bed?
Yes. I have no problem to believe it. I've heard many testimonies of people from all kinds of backgrounds that report these experiences.
See, even when I was a Christian, I would have said no to that question. Because I believe Jesus was real, but I said, look, it's more likely that she had some type of episode than Jesus actually coming down to earth, sitting on her bed and talking to her. Isn't that reasonable to say?
I mean, it depends as well. If you are starting from the presupposition that the God doesn't exist.
No, I said this when I was a Christian.
You doubt? Well, if as a Christian she would tell you she had a supernatural experience, you would doubt that eventually it is not.
Yeah, I used to go to a Pentecostal church for like 3 years. And I tell you, I doubted almost everything these Pentecostals told me. And I still love Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't take anything that other believers say at face value without having a healthy portion of skepticism. I think we should have that in regards of everything. And I mean, I am not gullible to believe whatever someone says. So I want.
But is it healthy? Is it healthy skepticism for me to doubt that Jesus actually appeared to Paul on the Damascus Road? Is that healthy skepticism in your opinion?
If you are starting, let's suppose that you were completely green in regards of Christianity. You had never heard about it. And then you would hear all these claims of supernatural events. Of course, it is reasonable that you have a dose of skepticism and try to go to the bottom of what these people are claiming and saying. And I mean, it is in the same as in science, Doc, that if you look to something superficially, then you can eventually come to a completely different conclusion than when you dig deeper and then come to the bottom of the issue.
Right.
And then eventually you find a completely different picture.
I agree.
When you see something on a superficial from
right.
A
but I'm saying on a I agree with you, but on a superficial level, I think you can be a Christian. Well, maybe not. I was going to say that, yeah, I think you can be a Christian and still read the story in Acts, which Paul actually never says himself. It's a different author talking about. Mm-hmm. The Damascus Road appearance is not talked about by Paul. It's talked about a lot of Christians say Luke. And I think you can be a Christian and still say, no, maybe Paul saw Jesus in a vision or through the Spirit, but no, flesh to flesh, no, he didn't see Jesus in the flesh. I think that's, and I think a lot of Christians do say that. And so you don't have to have any presuppositions against miracles, but you can still have this reasonable skepticism that, no, Jesus and Paul never met face to face.
But you know that Paul also reports in one of his letters that he had other supernatural experiences where he was, where he went to the third heaven, and
that's more reason to think that maybe he was not right in the head, right?
Well, you are free to think that, but I mean, if you read his letters, then you, I think, agree with me that he was a very well instructed,
like if you
intelligent person.
Well, I know, but people can be surgeons in the medical field and still be Scientologists and still be Mormons and still believe the craziest things and still have certain parts of their life that are weird. But I just think that it is more likely that when Paul talks about, if someone were to come up to you and say, last year I went up in a spaceship way up into the sky, up into the firmament or whatever, and had this experience in the third heaven, but with aliens, wouldn't it be reasonable to be skeptical that ever happened and that it's more of an episode, a psychological or mental episode that they were having rather than it actually being true, just on its face?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so in the same way, just on its face, isn't it more likely that Paul didn't go into the third heaven and then maybe he was dreaming, maybe he read a book, a text, and these ideas were planted in his head, and so it was just a dream? Yeah,
you can give that interpretation, and I mean, I know you are a skeptic, you are a non-believer, and I understand that eventually, based on what you think is true, you hold that conclusion. And
your child just fell down.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I got to run.
Okay.
Take care. Nice conversation.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. This child just fell down. Well, that was fun. Did I miss any live stream super chats? I probably did. But thank you. No, LB, this was not a repeat of every time Otangelo comes in. This was different. Sorry, Aaron. I see you want to come in, but I gotta end this. Look at some of the chat before I leave. You know what was different, LB? I got Otangelo to talk about some real stuff without reading from, the fine-tuning arguments and design arguments. It was good. Hi, dark-skinned Ethiopian. Thank you, RF Allison. Love how you bring out the best in Otangelo. Well, thank you. Do I have air conditioning in my cabin? No. I'm not at my cabin right now. I'm in the east wing of the PineCreek headquarters. Yeah, it was fun, Amy. Don't be hard on Felix. He's here for a reason. He wants to join our religion. He's conflicted. If you missed the first part of this live stream, go back and watch it. My apologies to Cameron Bertuzzi. He was scheduled to come on, but we ran out of time. Thanks for the donation, Tim Hortons puppy. Hey, Tim Hortons. I like their coffee.